You just press play on the Last Breath Huntcast, home of the Huntroversy. We're here to entertain, educate, and engage. And in case you didn't know, you only live once. But if you do it right, once is enough. Don't waste it. All right, everyone. Welcome to episode number 89 of the Last Breath Huntcast. My name is Grant, and we have one hell of a show for you today. We're talking to the Coppers Creek Bowhunters. They're going to show you and tell you all about what Coppers Creek is and does, where they can be found, and the journey into traditional bow hunting that they have started. So our guests today are going to be Cody Smith. Cody, say hi.
Hello.
Miles.
How's it going?
We got Andrew.
How's it going?
And we also have Brett.
What's up?
So we're going to talk about everything traditional bow hunting, the ups, the downs, the things that you need to know, the things that you should keep in mind before getting into it, and everything encompassing that. And then we're going to get controversial with our topic at the end. So today we're doing a half controversy, half informational podcast with these guys, and that's pretty much it. Just a reminder, though, before we get into it, the podcast is brought to you by Badlands Gear. You can check them out at badlandsgear.com. We've got a pretty sweet 30% off discount code if you would like to be a part of the Last Breath Inner Circle. That is a Facebook group that Garrett made, and we've been rocking their stuff for about the last 3 seasons. Had a lot of really good things to say about Badlands and the gear that they make and the way that they stand behind it. So rest assured that anytime you try on, put on, wear, use a piece of Badlands gear, whether you buy it on their site or at a garage sale, as long as it's got the red bull skull on it, it is covered for life, lifetime warranty. The other partner of this podcast is Underwarmer. So it is a heated base layer system that you can wear right next to your skin. It's got 4 giant heat pads in the front, 4 giant heat pads in the back. The thing that I really like about it is it can eliminate the amount of layers that I have to take into the woods bow hunting, especially, during those colder months, November, December, when I'm really trying to layer it on. It makes it possible that I don't have to do that and not put on so many layers. So Underwarmer, big shout out to them. You can find them at underwarmer.com as well. So now let's get into it. And we'll start right here to my right with Cody. And you want to go ahead and explain to the people, we'll get a brief introduction, then we'll get into it. But you can go first. Who are you? What do you do? Where you live at? And tell the listeners anything they need to get to know Cody. Go ahead. Tell people who you are, what you do.
My name's Cody Smith. I'm from Breeds, Illinois. I'm 24. And actually, I'm finishing up nursing school right now. I got a semester left, so I'm ready to really get that rolling. But, how I started bow hunting, I was growing up, I was shooting the TV with the little spongy arrows, shooting the deer.
Suction cup.
Yeah, I come from a big bow hunting family, really. I killed my first deer when I was 7, 8 years old with a bow, and I just really taken off from there and where it's led, so I love it. I love bow hunting, and I love filming. So, really, that's all it is.
It kind of all makes sense and mesh together. What about you?
I'm Andrew Jordan. I'm from Elmwood, Illinois. I'm a third-generation automotive repair mechanic. I'm 24 years old. I grew up hunting. My dad, I always was following him in his footsteps, and I shot my first deer with a shotgun when I was like 7, but shortly after that, a few years later, I got into bow hunting hard and heavy with him. I was like 13 when I killed my first one.
Sure. And
it wasn't until about 3-4 years ago until I started finally getting into traditional, hard and heavy. I've always shot instincts, fingers, no sights, even on a compound, never really did anything of it. And when you pick up a bow like that and you shoot it, I just feel like a little kid again. You know what I mean?
Took you back to the beginning.
Yeah, just like what Cody said. I remember when I was growing up, I'd shoot everything in the yard, birds, little squirrels, everything with a little kid bow. And when you pick up that bow again, and you start shooting it with your buddies, you just have a ball. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
That's basically the gist of it.
Okay, Miles, how about you?
I'm Miles Harkless. I'm 23 from Canton. I'm in the Laborers Union. And I've been bow hunting since I was 13. My stepdad got me into it as a little kid, and that's all I've ever done is bow hunt. I've never shot a deer with a gun. And,
whoa.
Yeah.
Ever?
Nope.
Not one single one?
Nope.
What about you?
With a gun?
Yeah.
I've killed a few.
Brett?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Andrew?
Oh, yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
Never
Man, what?
Yep, just been strictly bow hunting my whole life.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and then just been doing that forever, and just the past couple of years, me and Cody have been buddies since we were little kids, and then we started hunting together, and we decided to get into the traditional ways. I don't really know what brought us into that, but it just kind of happened. And then we started filming the past 2 years. And, we just decided we wanted to do our own thing, you know. We recently got on with the push, too. So we're going to do both those things, and we're just learning to love it.
Sure. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I'm Brett Perryman, also from Elmwood, 26 years old, and I killed my first deer when I was probably 7 or 8 with a gun. And then, like Andrew said, shortly afterwards, I started bow hunting. I had a Browning Micro Midas 2, I think it was called, and it had no sights, no release, no nothing. And I killed a few deer with that. And then the next bow I had was it was my dad's old Hoyt, and it was about 4 foot tall, and it didn't draw very good.
And that's a traditional bow?
No, it was a compound. It was a Hoyt Spectra, I think.
Okay.
And it's a big old bow. But yeah, and then I'd killed a few deer with it, and I'd missed a lot of deer with it. But and I continued to gun hunt for quite a few years after that, and then it got to the point where every time I squeezed that trigger, it just wasn't near as fun as when I let go of an arrow. So I actually bought a PSE early high school, and it was the first bow I'd had that had sights on it, and I thought that was a hell of a game changer for one. But
absolutely.
And then it got to the point where, and I've killed a lot of deer in my life, but I've not killed nothing I wouldn't call no giant or nothing like that. But I've killed some real nice deer, and it just got to the point where I'd shot that recurve that we had at the house growing up when I was a little kid, and I put it away for about 6 years, never hunted nothing with it. And actually I was working before I got into the plumbers union, I was working building houses with a guy out of McQuan, and him and the electrician there had just bought brand new crossbows, and I was giving him a little bit of shit one night, and I said, "Oh, you guys are using crossbows," and so then he said, "Well, you use a compound, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "Well, if you were a real man, you'd do it with a recurve." So I went home that night from work, and I got the recurve out, and I hadn't shot it in a long time, but I put about 6 arrows at 20 yards into a paper plate, and I thought, well, maybe I could probably do this. So I bucked out with my compound 3 years ago, pretty early, and then so I took the recurve out trying to kill a doe, and I missed one doe with it, and that's all that happened that year. But then the next year, I really practiced a lot, and ended up killing a buck early October. And then about a week later, I killed a coyote with it. And then about a week after that, I killed a doe. And that was my first season. So that's how I got into it. Now it's just I can't go back to anything else because it's pretty much engulfed my life is those stick bows.
Totally taken over.
Oh, yeah, it's completely taken over.
All right.
I'm going to check that. My first bow kill was the neighbor's chicken with a stick bow my grandpa made me. I think I was like 3 or 4. Yeah, chicken.
Like bok bok?
Oh, yeah. Like 3 or 4 years old. Yep.
That's what you get out of That's what you get out of breeds down there.
Pretty guys.
Oh, man.
Yep.
That's what happens when you got a guy from Canton on. Dirty bastards. All right. The first question I have here on my list is any one of you guys can take it. I'm going to pass the torch to you, though, Cody, first. What is Copper's Creek? What do you guys do? Where can you be found? Etc. Go ahead and lay it out for the people because people are going to want to know who you are.
So Copper's Creek Bowhunters, it's a media page we started to really show our success and like our experiences of our like traditional community we have down in Breeds and all around really. It originated in the 80s actually from my grandpa, which is pretty cool, to kind of bring that back, to keep it in the family. And he actually started a longbow company. He started making bows in 2002. But he's kind of slowed down from that. But so what is like every Mondays and stuff?
Yeah,
we always shoot as far as there's like we got like 25 targets at my grandpa's house, and we have like 20 guys probably who really changed to traditional archery besides my dad and my grandpa and a couple other guys. But
when there's not something that could be being hunted,
Yeah.
If it's not in season, there's a break in seasons, we're down there shooting.
Yeah. So, I mean, we really kind of established a community for traditional archery.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But we can be found on Facebook and Instagram, Coppers Creek Bowhunters. It's with an A, Copperas.
Okay. For those of you guys that are like me, you'll stare at it and
Yeah.
you'll be like, Coppers. And then you'll see that there's that A in there, and I'm like, Coppers? And I was like, I don't know how to say that. I don't want to jack that up. So we
Right.
better have one of these guys tell what's going on. So you guys are also, in addition to being a community of traditional bow hunting guys, you also film.
Yes. Yep.
So where can you guys be found on social media, and when can people see your show? I know you've already been putting out some stuff, but when is that available for the people to see?
So really just Instagram and Facebook right now. Like Miles said, we teamed up with a push to get content on YouTube. So,
Yep.
I mean, that's about it right now. But we've been putting content out for about a month now, or
Yeah,
2
probably a
months.
month
Yeah,
on
just
Facebook.
really
Well, and we
build
kind of acted like it was like the Instagram startup, Facebook startup. That was more of like a teaser to when we fully get these videos together and put them on YouTube or however you wanted to run that.
Right. Yeah. But we've been filming for like 2 or 3. This year was our first traditional season, really, and it definitely had its downs, But there's a little glory there, not much, but
Well, and that's like I
can
said
imagine.
when I picked up, and so I didn't actually hang around you guys too much, but I knew you guys, and I picked up the recurve and hunted with it for like 1.5 seasons before they did.
Okay.
And when they started picking them up and they're thinking, oh, we shooting targets, they're like, oh, we're gonna kill deer like this. And I had a pretty good season my first year,
Right.
But I was like, yeah, it's a different animal.
Yeah,
for sure.
Right.
I mean, I hit my goal. My main goal going into the season was just to kill a doe, and I did that.
Yeah.
I had my
Right.
opportunities at bucks, just slightly out of range, but
yeah.
it's part of the game.
But that is Coppers Creek Bowhunters. We're just a media page right now, and we're teaming up with the push, me and Miles, and we're gonna get our content out there as far as what we experience. So
Yeah, and there's really not a whole lot of people I mean, man, we were talking about this before we pressed the record button. I feel like when Garrett and I are out in the woods and it happens and it lines up, it's like, let's go buy a lottery ticket, because the amount of factors that have to go into killing a buck on frame that's, high quality footage, it's freaking tough.
Yeah.
And now you add in the fact that you add the difficulty level in.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ, these guys
So
are
the way I look
insane.
at that, way I look at that, so when you're hunting with a compound, and because it's different, but it's it's not as different, I don't think. But when you're no seriously,
I don't know, man.
because when
it seems pretty fucking honestly.
you gotta go through the same motions. So when that deer walks
agree with
up and
that.
it gets into its spot and you're ready to shoot, the only difference is to me, when you're pulling back a compound, there's a sight there, there's a peep there, there's things that remind you to make sure that checklist is checked off before you let that arrow go. But now when you're doing it with the recurve or longbow, you pull that bow back, you got to have that checklist in your mind. Are you back to your anchor?
Right.
Are you picking a spot that's the size of a quarter, not the size of a plate? And then you got to your release has got to be the same. You got to have all that down, but there's nothing there to remind you to do that.
Right.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about the checklist aspect.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of things.
And it's
like,
hard. That's really hard because I've killed
That's a hell of a good
I've
point.
killed a few deer now and a coyote, and I'm gonna try to get a turkey this year with it. I nicked a turkey last year with it.
Dude, that footage is nuts.
But that's one of the hardest things, because the deer that I have missed, or the turkeys that I have missed, or whatever I've missed, that's after I've let that arrow go, like almost immediately, I know in my head I wasn't sure if I was at that same anchor spot. I wasn't sure if I was looking at a spot the size of a quarter or if I was just looking at that whole deer. And that's one of the hardest things to get past. But I think if you can get past that, in reality, there's not a huge difference.
I think it's totally different. But
Well, no, it
the
is.
first
but
time I
mean,
took a recurve, or I was actually a longbow my grandpa made
I
to the
completely
woods.
disagree.
I look over to my left, the bow's hanging in the tree. Yeah, there's no sight pins.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's
which
no
is what I
release.
said.
Right, but there's it's just you and that bow. You know, how much have you practiced? How confident are you? Like, how good do you feel about shooting this bow with no pin? I mean, Grant, how do you imagine when you look over and you and Garrett in the tree and there's no sight pins or nothing? Or
Yeah, that would be
it's kind of a
terrible day.
Yeah.
That'd be a terrible day.
You kind of
don't plan on doing it ever.
Yeah.
So
You kind of rely on that. Right.
Oh man, I got some serious amounts of bone that I got to hang on the wall before I even think about freaking.
And actually,
messing
my
around with
brother-in-law,
traditional
he
stuff.
just said the same thing the other day. He said he was getting a new bow, and I said recurve, and he said, no, I'm going to get a new compound. And I said,
Smart man.
I said, well, why don't you get your recurve? And he said, he goes, I have too much empty wall space in my house to switch to recurve right now. So I told him, I said, well, these bows are a lot bigger. So if you don't kill nothing, you just hang the bow on the wall and it take up some space.
Yeah, there you go. My buddy Cameron Deerfield, he calls the compound bow a bow with training wheels.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a hot topic in breeds.
That's a
I
pretty.
can tell you right
freaking-
now, when you go down
That's
to
pretty
the-
funny.
If you go to the shoots with, I'd say tops, the guys that go to the shoots, we got, 20 guys?
Yeah, probably.
If
around
everybody's there. And if you come down there wheeling a compound,
So
You won't
better
shoot.
be ready for the
it's like college hazing.
there. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Times 10
we have,
probably.
and we have, like I said, the other guy that's not here right now, Jake. He still hunts only compound. So when we let him, he comes and shoots with us all the time, and it's no big deal. But those guys, they give him a lot of shit, and he takes it and says, "One day I'll have one." You know.
I'm not bashing a compound at all.
No,
I mean,
I'm gonna keep my compound. If I go
Yeah.
out west, I'm definitely gonna whip that.
I
thing
totally
out.
agree.
Yeah.
But
I still got mine.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Ooh,
Disclaimer, though.
And if I got a buck pattern late season at 40 yards coming by, just
Right.
skirting that recurve mark, I'll pull the compound out.
Grant, when did you start-
I'm not too man to say I won't do that.
I gotta say, I look at numbers all the time, and
Right.
elk statistically, I think 8% of elk hunters that draw a tag kill one with a compound bow.
Yeah.
So you think of 8% of people that are tagging a bull with a compound? I'm like, oh my god! I bet there's probably literally less than 300 bull elk that have ever been harvested with a recurve.
my dad
I bet it's
actually
that
killed
freaking
one with
tough.
like
Yeah,
70.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
Holy
hey,
hell.
how cool would you feel to be in that club though?
Oh, so cool. So freaking cool. You'd be walking around everywhere with your dick dragging the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Just
That'd
like
be
that. Just like that video, was it from the Stalker? Was it from the Stalker website or something like that? He's associated with Stalker bows, recurve bows.
I'm not sure.
This big bull comes bugling down the hill, like screaming down the hill, and it comes within 5 feet of him. And the guy's at full draw for he has a Stalker longbow, I'm pretty sure. He's sitting there holding that thing back for like 2 minutes. The bull's screaming right in his face at 5 yards. And he's broadside from me to you, and he lets that arrow go.
Oh my god.
How far of your heart would be pounding out of your chest?
Yeah, heart attack zone.
Wouldn't even shoot. Just die.
Yeah.
Just die.
Have a stroke, your heart explodes.
Well, and
what
that's
happened to that guy? He's
One of
fucking
my
dead.
favorite parts
Bull killed
about
him.
switching to the traditional aspect of it, like I said, I've killed a lot of deer in my life, and none of them have been giants. But I've killed some nice deer. Now, I had a few guys around Elmwood and guys, buddies of mine, probably even some of these guys sitting here right now, that have given me a little shit for killing a deer that ain't quite big enough, they say. Okay. Well, so I went out and I
Just
killed
beat him up.
that
It's the biggest one.
Yeah. So then
I don't know. I'd
Don't-
like to see you two throw down.
Hey,
I don't know. Who
I ain't worried about Andrew. I grew up with him. He's just like a younger kid to me.
What? The bigger they are, the harder they fall, or what?
Just a couple of teddy
Chop
bears.
that
But no,
straight
so
down.
then the first deer I killed with the recurve was a buck, and it was, little 2-year-old. And he come out, and he was probably about 45 yards, and I looked at him, and I was like, I wouldn't shoot that deer. And I watched him for about a half hour, and then when that half hour was up, he turned and he walked about 6 yards from my stand, turned perfectly broadside, and I thought, well, I ain't never killed one with this recurve before, so I let him have it.
Yeah.
And then you would have thought that deer was 250 inches. I was so excited.
Yep.
It's just like, they were saying about bringing the kid out in you again. That's how it is. It's like your first deer again.
That's
That's one
good
thing me
point.
and Miles talked about is like we don't want to change our habits just because we choose a different weapon. We still want to go after that mature deer
Yeah.
and not kind of like your first buck you kill, you don't care what it is as long as it has horns. Well,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, we've killed a few deer in our lives, good deer, you know.
I've killed my share of 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
I'm trying to step my game up.
Yeah.
I've
Right.
killed 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, but I've killed enough 3-year-olds now. I'm getting older. I need to quit doing that.
We just didn't want to change
Sure.
that in the way we hunt just because we choose to shoot traditional archery.
And I think that's part of the evolution. There's an interesting article that's written by like Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's that break being a hunter into like 5 steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's the like first phase, which is basically like if it's brown, it's down. You're happy with anything. And then there is the tagging out phase. And the tagging out phase is the second phase, and you're just happy like, all right, I killed my 2 bucks this year, and I filled my 2 doe tags this year. The third phase is I want to say the trophy hunter phase. And the trophy hunter phase is I want the biggest, I'm not concerned with the quantity. I want the quality.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the 4th or 5th phase, I think I forgot one and I'm missing one. But the next one after that's like that mentorship phase. And I'm not definitely there yet. We take some kids out turkey hunting with us, but it's more so, I'm not afraid to say it. And my friends and I have talked about this. I feel like trophy hunter, when you say I'm a trophy hunter, that doesn't sound good to people. It's more so seen as a negative thing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I'm out there to shoot the most mature buck that I can.
Right.
Why? Well, typically the ones 5+ years old got the biggest fucking set antlers on
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I'm not going to hide behind the fact that
But I would
Also
rather
the biggest
see.
You know what I'm saying?
Also the biggest brain too. I feel like we're hunting those 5.5-year-old deer. They're a different animal.
Yeah.
Completely different than going on. Even if it's a 160-inch 3-year-old,
Totally
you're hunting
different.
a 130-inch 5.5-year-old deer. It's a different animal you're hunting there.
Well, just like the freak buck you shot last year. That was 3 weeks straight.
Oh yeah, but that deer there was something wrong with him. He was downwind 2 times, so like I had this deer under 25 yards probably downwind. He went right by, no shot. The second time we had an encounter with him, I missed him at same trail, 20 yards, 25 yards. It was kind of dark, but again downwind. So we kind of moved our set, or we were actually using climbers, and we were like in on this deer's bedroom pretty much. We knew what he was doing. We got a cell cam picture of him, and that was at 11 o'clock, and at 1 o'clock we were in there, and I'm like, Miles, he's at work. I'm like, dude, you gotta come. Like, he's in there. Like, get off work, let's go. And we finally linked up, and we got in the tree, and like we killed that deer like 20 minutes as far as how long we were in the tree.
It was probably a good 20 minutes. He was in a little peninsula, so we knew he was in there.
Surrounded by a lake,
on a doe going in there, and it worked. I mean, we put a scent on our boots and walked in, and I think he hit that trail, come right in. Cody said, he's right there, and I was just getting the camera situated. I'm like, oh man,
you thought I was lying. I'm like, get the camera now. He's right here.
I'm not bluffing. He's right here.
That worked out good though.
Yeah, because we all mess with each other in the stand. Hey, there's a big buck right here. What?
Absolutely.
No, I'm just kidding.
Boy who cried wolf.
I get a Snapchat like at 2:15. I'm working. And I'm like, oh, these guys are screwing with me.
2:15. Who kills a buck at 2:15?
And these two, Cody's all fired up, and Miles is all smiles. I'm like, did you really kill him? And I call them because their phones are about dead because they don't have service where they're at. He's like, yeah, seriously, we shot him. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I have 3 hours before I'm off work. So they went and took trophy pictures. As soon as I got off work, I was heading straight there. When I got there, I was like, oh, you guys aren't bullshitting. You guys really did kill that deer.
double drop time buck. I mean, that hunt's on our page as well. So
yeah,
did you check that out?
I gotta believe that if he relaunched that bad boy on YouTube sometime around November 5th.
Yeah,
I got a feeling that could be the one that pops you.
Right.
Get you pumped, because we've got a lot of ups and downs of that footage too that's not seen on there, misses.
That was just a short little promo video.
You're at 35 yards. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, Cody.
Yeah.
It worked out.
Yeah. That deer is incredible, by the way. If you guys haven't checked that out, check out their page, and
you'll see it.
Yeah, you'll see it. It's a very impressive deer, beautiful whitetail. So we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but I want to circle back to it. What made you guys, like I said, it's difficult enough killing a deer with a compound bow, but we'll start with you first, Miles. What made you initially want to get into hunting traditional?
Well, honestly, I always talked to those guys, and I thought it was kind of crazy to hunt with a recurve, to be honest. I was like, I'm not doing that. it took me a long time to be able to kill bucks consistently with my compound and not freak out, you know, like you did when you were younger. And I remember Cody's dad or grandpa messing with me. We were eating lunch one day. He said, "When are you going to take those training wheels off your bow?" And he wouldn't stop. I'm like, you know what? I bucked out that year. And I was like, oh, I'm going to start shooting this. I started shooting Cody's grandpa's longbow he made, actually.
I think that was my dad's longbow.
Yeah, it was his dad's longbow he made, and he let me shoot that, and I started shooting it, and me and Cody were he killed a buck that year too, and we just started shooting every day, you know. I was laid off, and I just fell in love with it. I just started shooting it every day, and then I started going to bow shoots, and then I shot that last buck, and I never picked that compound back up after that, and I just started shooting it and shooting it and shooting it, and I loved it. I couldn't quit doing it, and then I ended up getting a recurve because, you know, I was shooting that homemade longbow. It wasn't quite keeping up with those guys. And ever since then, I just fell in love with it. And it's like a little kid again, like we've talked about a couple of times. You just want to shoot all the time. And the challenge, you know, of a bow hunter, it just steps that level up again. You just learn to love it. It's awesome. Everybody should try it, I think.
Sure. Mm-hmm. How about you, Andrew? What made you hop on the bandwagon? Like, you're like, all right, I'm doing this. I'm taking the training wheels off and let's roll.
Well, when I was younger, I had a recurve, and the one I shoot to this day is one I shot. It was my dad's. It was painted back in the day, so I didn't know quite what it was. And it was like 3 years ago I took the paint off of it. So it's a Martin Super Diablo, nothing too special. But I shot that when I was like 12, 13 years old, a little bit. So I never really not shot traditional. I've always shot like a stick bow, like instinctively. But 3 years ago was when we were at his dad's house, and we were always talking about it, like how cool would it be to kill a deer with a stick bow again? How cool would it be, you know? I went home and I got the old bow out, blew the dust off it, because all I used to use it for was shoot like bow fishing, shoot carp with it, right?
Yeah.
Dad killed some deer with it. I killed a doe with it maybe when I killed a doe when I was 13. And then I hanged it up, and I got like a diamond compound, and I got a mission, and I got a Matthews Traverse now that's collecting dust currently. But I when we were in his garage, we used to play tic-tac-toe in his dad's garage at like 10 yards, and that was so fun. Like we were stacking arrows like this, and you're aiming at a spot this big at 10 yards. You'd think it'd be easy. No, not at all. I mean, we had arrows bouncing off the floor, bouncing off the walls and shit. It was hectic in the garage. But you know, ever since then, it was so much fun. And then when he got a recurve or longbow, when he started shooting again, everybody started shooting again, it like consumed your life. And it's like all I want to do is shoot now. That's all I want to do. I mean, I don't know how many bows you got, but you got a shitload. I have a few. He's got a few. I mean, Miles has got a sweet bow. I mean, we all got it now, and we all shoot. And it's just like every weekend we're always doing something shooting, and it's just I just can't put it down. I can't stop. Disclaimer though, this past year though, I did shoot my first buck with a compound. I felt like I was shooting a 30-06. But
back to the dark side.
Yeah. but it was a situation where the deers were coming at 35 yards, and I had no other tree to sit in.
If there was a brawl between the traditional bow hunter guys and the compound guys, and then there was the third group of guys that were like, I don't shoot with the sight, just fingers, man.
Oh yeah.
Would you think they're less of a less?
I don't think anybody's less than any of us or nothing like that.
Right.
But what is funny about that is,
but yeah,
we do get into
you're cool.
We do get into going to these 3D shoots, and we've been to a astronomical amount of them. We go every weekend. If there's not something to hunt at that time, we're at one every weekend.
Sure.
And what's funny about that to me, and we've talked with you and you guys and your dad and his group, and I don't know if this is a thing that's nationwide or just us, but it seems like every time we show up to these 3D shoots, I mean, we're like the rough crowd. You know, like
you guys are.
You know, you just got your
guys,
compound
dude.
guys.
Oh,
Look at these
the
guys with their
recurve
recurves and stick bows.
Oh, Jesus.
It's always that's it right there. It's always look at these guys. They're trying to be that. I was like, we're not like that. We got a couple guys in our group that do show up and they shoot compounds. Now we give them a lot of shit, but you know.
Yeah, I hear you, and I feel like there's there's definitely a fine line between being a complete prick asshole and just giving your buddy shit. And I feel like
well,
most
and that's
people
something
that
I
hunt
wanted
totally
to definitely
understand
talk
it.
about too. Is like, so Andrew kind of touched on a couple things, and like one of the reasons why I wanted to shoot the recurver longbow is because my dad had done it, and he shoots compound now. Well, he's back to recurve with us now, but he shot compound for years, and he had a recurve before that.
Yep.
And he did that. That's a reason why I got into it, and shooting out in his garage. That's something we all enjoyed doing. And then the other thing that you kind of said something about is how it takes over as far as it's like a community. I mean, you go to a 3D shoot. If you haven't shot a compound or a recurve in your life, and you go to these 3D shoots, and you miss every single target, the guys that are actually traditional there and hunt traditional and shoot traditional, they're not going to give you any shit. They might try to help you, and then then you everybody kind of learns from that. I feel like when you're shooting compound at those things, you miss a target with one, and everybody's like, what's this guy's problem? But it ain't like, I think the community, traditional community, I think is just a lot.
I can agree with that.
It's a lot more. It's a lot more like knowledgeable guys, I think, and it's a lot of guys that want to help you. They don't want to tear you down.
Guys,
yeah, all respectful guys. I've met guys that build bowstrings or build bows, and you need a string, they'll make you one, they'll give it to you. They don't sell it. They just, here you go.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And that's how them guys. Every single one of them guys I've met, and we've shot from here to Missouri.
Yeah.
I wonder why that is. Any theories on that?
I don't know, man. They're just a
know.
great group of guys. And I was telling them the other day, I just bought a set of limbs off of a guy from my recurve, a little bit lighter set. And it's some old guy, he's probably in his 60s, 70s.
Yep.
And he said, hey, how's the best way to do this? I don't know how to sell anything online. I said, well, most guys use PayPal, it's the safest way. And he says, well, I don't know how to do any of that. And he said, well, how about I'll just ship them to you? And if you screw me out of $400, and I guess I thought you in the wrong way, I was like, wow, you don't really see a lot of guys do anything like that. And of course, I sent him his money, but you just don't see that every day. Nobody's just going to send them to you.
Seems
nobody
really trusting.
Nobody would line up. I don't think anybody would line up a compound and just ship it before they got any money.
No. I probably wouldn't either.
Right.
And you think, like I did, one might think that getting into the recurve and longbow, you're like, oh, this is gonna be cheap compared to that compound I've been shooting.
Holds your value.
It ain't, buddy. I had one recurve 3 years ago that was at my dad's house all the time. That's what I picked back up and started shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just bought one from Cody the other day. I think that was number 17.
What?
I got some bows at home.
Yeah, he might have a problem.
In the case of a nuclear winter, it's time to burn.
Hey, if shit goes down, I'll be making cedar shafts.
Jesus, man, that's insane. So I'm totally ignorant to this. Like I know finances is always kind of like one of those things you don't talk about. You don't talk about politics.
Right.
You don't talk about religion. You don't talk about
Right.
finances. But to give the listeners a good idea of, all right, so I want to get into traditional bow hunting. If you're on a traditional bow hunting page or eBay or wherever you're buying it from, a yard sale, like a quality recurve or a quality longbow, I mean, what does that look like?
Well,
because I totally
you're gonna
have
get
no
a couple.
idea.
You're gonna get a couple opinions here because
Which is
I
fine.
think out
Which is fine.
of this group sitting here right now, I think I'm one of the guys that's, if it's cheap and it works, good. But you got, some of you guys, you like to buy.
So
other
when you're
stuff.
talking cheap,
But-
if somebody wanted to get
So
into traditional,
what I'm saying is
bow
we've got another guy, Nick, that's in our group. He didn't have a recurve or longbow. He was shooting compound, and I think he said it had an Oneida at one point.
Yeah.
So whatever, and he got in with us, and he's wanting to get into it. And the first thing I said, and because my girlfriend shoots a bow recurve,
that's cool.
and we were actually in the Ozarks, and I bought it on Amazon, $130. Didn't know if she was gonna like it. Didn't know if she was gonna stick with it. So
Sure.
why would you buy something more expensive?
Yeah. Right.
But you can buy something like that, and it's a good shooting bow. It's not the best hunting bow out there, but it'll shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can also go out and buy yourself a brand new Black Widow bow that's, upwards of $1,700 to
No,
$2,000.
I mean, a high quality bow is standard price. You're going to spend $800 to $1,100, brand new,
Wow.
brand new.
So
right?
kind of similar
Yeah, I
to
mean,
a
you could spend a
compound,
little more.
honestly.
Oh,
that's what I-
similar to
yeah.
a flagship compound.
And that's what I was saying. As
I'll be
far as
damned,
you
I
think,
would
you're
not have guessed
thinking,
that.
you would think it's a lot cheaper. To
I
do
would
it that
totally
way.
think.
Yep.
I would
But
have been
it-
like 300.
And they
But
hold
it
their
also
value,
could
too.
be too.
Yeah.
You know, you got guys like your grandpa's always saying about how the Black Widow guys, you know, they're all Me Too guys. They all got the Black Widow because they are nice bows. But you could do the same thing in a year by going out and buying a Fred Bear Grizzly for $400 brand new.
Yep.
Sure.
And that's, you know, the first year I actually really hunted, I killed the buck, the doe, and the coyote with
Right.
a Fred Bear Grizzly.
But there's so many bowyers out there.
Oh,
know?
yeah.
I mean, just
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
make really good bows. I mean, small or even big, like Widow, Stalker, you know,
Yeah.
Windred. But you also have like your little bowyers that make bows that are still good quality too. So, and they're kind of cheaper, you know, $700.
Still good
Yeah.
shooting
But
bows.
still, I mean, they all shoot in their own way, kind of like, you know, Compound Matthews,
Yeah.
Bowtech, you know, but
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
all
you've
have
got
their own
5 or
little
6
tweaks.
companies that
Yeah.
are making
Right.
great
Right.
product.
What really gets expensive is your custom built woods, how you want it to look, your carbon fibers. You
Yeah,
know.
and there is you can tell the difference. You pick up bear grizzlies or anything along those lines, your little lower end bows, they
Yeah.
shoot great. They're all great shooting bows. But then you pick up a Widow or Stalker, Bobbly, any of those higher end bows, you can tell, I mean, they're a little bit smoother pulling. They pull a little easier,
faster,
a little
Right.
bit quicker.
Well, and
But
that's like the bow that I just bought from Cody. I have bows at my house, including my girlfriend's, that go from 35 pounds upwards. I got one that's 77-pound draw at 28 inches.
Jesus.
Yeah, that bow actually snapped on me at full draw, and it went off like a Civil War cannon. But
Whoa. That's scary.
but I'm saying I got what Miles was touching on as far as if a bow's a nice bow or not. The bow I just bought from Cody is compared to the ones I hunt with is like a lot lower in draw weight. It's 52 pounds at 30 inches. But that bow there, the way it's made and the way those bends are, it shoots an arrow faster than probably my 60-pound bow. And that's just because of the way it's made or how it was made or the woods that were used.
Right.
And that's, like he said, there's a lot of bowyers out there, and it's hard to really narrow that down.
So that's what you call a bow craftsman, is a bowyer.
Yep.
yeah.
Interesting.
A
Yep.
bowyer or bowyer.
Yep.
I
I don't know. how you
Cool.
say it.
I don't know if I'm
Bowyer.
saying
I
it
just learned something
Yeah.
interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
so talking about gear specifically now, let's do a little whip around here.
Okay.
Cody, we'll start with you. What's the name of the bow you shoot, and what broadheads do you shoot, and how many pounds do you shoot? So we'll start with the bow first.
Okay, so I shoot a Stalker Coyote, and I actually just picked that up last week, but I did use a West Wallace that I hunted with this year. As far as broadheads, I shoot a 3-blade VPA, and that's 150 grains. And what was the other question?
And your draw weight.
Draw weight?
I mean,
Oh,
if
right,
that's
yeah, yeah.
quantifiable.
Yeah,
you know? I
no,
know
for
it's
sure.
kind of like the more you stretch it, the more
Right,
more
but-
difficult it is to
Oh,
pull
it's
the
pretty,
trigger. I
it's
have no
pretty
idea.
huge variable, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
A lot of bows are kind of measured at like 28 inches for
Okay.
a bow in the poundage, but I shoot 49 pounds at 28, and my draw length is probably like 28.5 to 29, so it's 2 to 3 pounds per inch usually.
Oh,
As
okay.
far as you add that and subtract that from 28 or whatever the bow
Right.
is made at.
Right, so if you're shooting 49 pounds, your draw's a 28, and my draw's closer to 30, I'm adding weight to that. That's how you would do that. It's 2 to 3
Right.
pounds
Yep.
per inch
Gotcha.
more that I'm pulling.
Makes sense.
Yep.
How about you, Miles?
I actually started out with, like I said, Cody's dad's longbow he custom built, and then I was shooting with these guys all the time. I ended up getting me a Black Widow, and it's 60 pounds at 28 inches. It's a little stout when I'm target shooting all year. It shoots pretty good. It's a quick shooting bow. I get tired shooting that, like
I bet.
you're holding 60 pounds back. It's just a little bit tougher.
60 pounds, no let off.
No let off.
I forgot the
And I just ordered a new set of limbs though, 49. And then I think when you're holding a little bit higher poundage bow like that, you develop bad habits in a way when you're
Right.
shooting all day,
Sure.
which is huge. Follow through and all that's a big aspect.
Yeah.
But I just ordered a set of 49 pound limbs at 28 inches, and I'm just gonna shoot like a dream. I think 60-inch bow.
Yeah, talk about the length of the bow and how that.
Yeah, it's 60 inches, you know, so which it all depends on your handle too, your riser, the variable, how much working limbs you have, and all that. So mine's 60-inch bow, and it's a PSA Black Widow, and it's gonna it pulls. I think these limbs I just got are gonna pull like a dream though. And
That's 5 freaking feet.
yeah,
Man,
it's long.
the bow I just ordered is it's 31 and a half inches after that. I'm like, fuck.
And that's
5 feet. Oh my god.
that's long for a compound anymore, isn't it?
It's pretty average. 30's pretty about
30,
average.
ain't
There's
bad.
they making bows about
Yeah.
27 ATA all the way out to
Yeah.
like 34, 35.
My compound's got probably 2 inches of dust on it right now. I haven't dicked with that much lately.
Yeah, and I started out with Montex 3 blades. They shot pretty good,
G5s,
125s.
okay.
Yep, and then I actually just recently went to Cutthroats. I buy those on Rocky Mountain Specialties where I got those,
Gotcha.
and they shoot awesome, man. The best shooting broadheads I've shot out of that bow because it's huge tuning your arrows with your head. Everything's
Oh, dude, I bet.
it's insane. It's nothing like a compound.
I bet.
And I shot the doe I killed. I hit high shoulder shot. You know, anybody that's killed a amount of deer, you know, you shoot a deer high. Usually the blood trail is not great.
Yep.
And that thing just poured blood. I was really surprised.
Did you get a
and impressed
double?
with them.
Did you get a pass through?
Yep.
Well, I'll be damned.
Yeah, it's a great.
So I noticed a commonality between both of your answers. Is it pretty standard practice for a traditional guy to shoot over that 100? Because I shoot 100 grain broadhead,
Yeah.
but is it pretty common for traditional guys to shoot 125, 150s, and
Even
above?
200s, all that.
150 to
Okay.
200 really is pretty
Yeah.
common. Yeah.
Weight tubes. I got weight tubes in my
Yeah.
arrows, weighted
Yeah.
inserts. I mean,
So
just trying
inserts
to
is
getting
a
a lot
big
of
thing,
weight
I
that
think.
still flies good
Right.
in the long run.
You really got to find that balance of speed
Yeah.
and weight, so it's kind of like a bus,
Yeah.
as far as hitting, but you don't want it too slow, otherwise you're not going to get any
Yeah,
penetration.
and we're still
Right.
learning that,
Yeah.
There's a
Right.
lot to learn.
Yeah,
I don't
'cause
think you'll
oh,
ever
I can
quit
imagine.
learning.
The first
Yeah.
deer that I killed with a recurve, I actually I wanted to use them because they were my grandpa's. They were the Bear Razorhead broadheads, the old ones with the two blade with the bleeder.
Yeah.
And I thought I had those nice and sharp, and they ain't nothing compared to what buying a brand new broadhead is.
Sure.
Right.
But
really spend some time.
So your setup, Brett, your bow, your broadhead, and the poundage that you're shooting, what's that look like for you?
well, the first year I had a 55-pound draw on a 58-inch bow, and like he was saying, with the length of the bow, especially if your risers are close and you have longer limbs, that pull is so much smoother if you have the longer limbs. And I know it's only 58 to 60, that's 2 inches, but it helps out a lot as far as that pull goes.
It's kind of weird to think about, but it does.
Yeah, it's because so I shot 58-inch bows for my first year and most of my life, and then my dad actually bought a 60-inch Bear Super Kodiak, and when he got it, I went in his garage and pulled it back, and I'm like, I gotta have one of those like right now, and because it was so much smoother than what I was shooting.
Sure.
But so that was the first year, and as far as the arrows go, I shoot the Magnus Stinger broadheads, the 2 blades with a bleeder, and that was because they were the closest thing I could find to those old Bear Razorheads. And that's where you'll find, like I said earlier, about I'm gonna shoot what works for me, and it might not be the most expensive thing. I can go buy 3 of them broadheads for $30, and the doe I shot this year was with a 60-pound recurve, 17 yards, and I went through. She was kind of a little cockeyed, and I shot through the lung, right around the heart, and it actually that Magnus went through the opposite shoulder and stuck out about 10, 12 inches. And when
I
you're
would not
talking,
have suspected that.
no,
That's crazy.
no, and I know that a couple guys I'd talked to about those Magnus broadheads, especially some of the older guys around town, they said when those first come out, they were just known for blowing through shoulders. And I didn't know that. I just bought them because I liked the way they looked.
Yeah.
But and I had a blood trail like you wouldn't believe, and I mean that doe made it probably 25 yards and died. And until one of them screws me over, I'm gonna keep using them.
Sure. What do you guys think is a standard, like, oh, don't go below that weight? Like, I know in Illinois at least you got to be pulling, I believe, legally 40.
I think they
40,
dropped
right?
that actually. I think it's down to 35.
Yeah, I think you're
35.
right.
They dropped it to
It was
35.
40 when I was growing up, but I think it's 35 now.
That's the last time I checked it. Was they were about 40, but what's the poundage in which you're like, probably shouldn't go hunting with that. That's too
One
light.
of my bows at home.
Like, what's
is
the bottom line?
One of my bows at home is a 45,
traditional.
and I don't think I would go below that. In my opinion, I could be wrong on that.
You can kill a deer with.
Well, no,
pretty low
well,
poundage.
that wasn't the question
Right.
at hand.
No, I mean, a recurve is really, or a longbow is slower compared to a compound, but
It's all about
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to shoot lighter than that, like you said, Brett. But I
Right.
feel like if you are, then it's
like
even more your head weight and all that is a huge.
Yeah, but
variable,
look
even
at
more,
those.
you know?
Look at all the Facebook groups that we're in for buying, selling bows, and you could look at them all day. And honestly, if you want anything over 55 pounds, you probably never find it on those pages
No.
because 99% of people, I think, hunt with probably 30 to 40. Well, whatever the limit is, but
Right.
35 to 45 pounds. I think that's a majority.
yeah.
And I think that's honestly because a lot of guys are, the older guys, they're not pulling a ton of weight. And they
No.
don't want to.
Right.
But if you have a tuned arrow, like I said about that bow I bought from you, it's a lot lower weight, but it flies faster than some of my heavy bows.
To answer
Right.
your question, really, probably 35 pounds at whatever your draw
be the bottom
length
line.
is. Yeah, I'd probably say so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna keep my heavier set of limbs 60 pounds. Like you watch a lot of these guys archery courses and all that on traditional, and you don't want to go very heavy when you're practicing all day. Like we'll go out and shoot 100, 150 arrows, no problem.
Which is a
And
lot.
then you
That's
get
a ton of arrows.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's easy to do. And then you develop, I think it's huge, you develop bad habits when you're starting to get tired, and then you develop that habit through there. And then that's why I decided to switch. I'm going to use a little bit lighter poundage bow. And then when hunting season comes around, I'm going to throw my 60-pound limbs back on and let them heat.
Yeah, but at that point too, though, and this is my opinion, but I wouldn't want to practice with something all year long that I'm not going to hunt with.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's, I mean,
As you have 17 bows in your closet.
and I can hunt, and I can hunt with any one of them.
You sandbagging son of a bitch.
Well,
What about you, Andrew?
come on, huh?
What about you, buddy?
Well, I just
Walking through the setup.
Well, like I said before, I grew up basically only shooting one bow, and it was an old painted bow my dad had. He shot it in the 90s, killed a lot of deer with it, and it sat for a long time. And I picked it up, started shooting it, and 3 years ago I took the paint off it. Well, it turns out it's a Martin Super Diablo. It's 50 pounds at 28 inches. Well, my draw is like 30, 31 and a half.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
for those of you guys that are listening to this podcast right now, Andrew is an above average sized man. He's about, what are you, about 6'3",
6'3", 250.
yeah, and both of you guys, I wouldn't want to fuck with either one of you, to be honest. Well, any four of you. Really?
it's all for show.
Show. It's all show.
Big tree fall hard.
So I shoot full length arrows and everything I shoot. I've always have, right?
Sure.
But my broadheads I shoot right now on that setup is I shoot Big Jim dark timber shafts 400s with 50 grain brass inserts with about 185 grains up front for broadheads. So add that together, that's what I'm shooting up front. And just because I'm shooting such a long arrow and I'm pulling it back, so I'm pulling 55, 56 pounds out of that bow, and it stacks hard. So when that arrow hits, it hits hard, like really hard.
Sure.
But my broadheads I shoot they're old school Magnus. I found out they're old. Yeah, no, the old two blade they got dad had. They're from Canada. I found they're Magnus. They're originally from Magnus Stingers, which I've shot out of my compound for years. Me and my dad, we've always shot Thunderheads or Magnus Stinger 2 blades.
Yeah.
So I have those, but I also have 3 blade Woodsmans, and they're 125 grains. This is for a backup because I shoot 125s with 50 grain brass inserts for 3D, so it's a backup. But my hunting setup's gonna be a little heavier because I'm a 15-yard guy. I like them right
in the lap.
yeah, right in the lap, always. I have 20 yards, 25 yards is probably, that's about as far as I'll probably shoot. These guys give me shit because I see them send videos and these deer look closer than they really are, but they're like 30 yards away. I'm like, I'm not going to shoot them deer. But that's my setup. I also have a Black Widow PTF. It's a single piece. I don't own any takedowns quite yet. And it's a 66 pounder at 29 and a half inches. So it's about 70 pounds, but when I'm pulling it back.
So you brought up a good point when you were just talking, and what I wanted to know, one of my things that I was curious about is, like, what is your maximum effective kill distance. All right, so let's say, and I know this may change, which is weird to say. It may change for a buck or for a doe, depending on who the buck is. You're tagged out. You're having your season is a struggle bus essentially. Who knows? But let's do a quick whip around. What's your maximum effective kill distance? Like if there's a deer out there standing broadside, we're talking like a picturesque, perfect broadside shot, and the deer doesn't appear to be alert.
Mm-hmm.
What's your maximum distance at which you're like, all right, I'm drawing back.
I'm good.
I'm very calm.
You're comfy.
What are you sending it at?
25 yards.
25.
And 25 yards. I'm pretty cozy there. Getting out past that, I'm a little iffy. I had a buck this year. Actually, I rattled in. It was the 15th of November, and he came in downwind once again, 15 yards. I need him to take one more step. Oh. He was 150s, probably a
nice deer.
8-pointer with a kicker. Good deer.
Ooh,
good deer.
Really big deer.
Yeah.
At 150s as an 8.
Yeah, he was a
big fucking deer.
15, 20 yards. And I just need him to take like a couple steps, man. Yeah, he was downwind. He picked his nose up. And he
son of a bitch.
Went right away. I'm like, man. 20 minutes later, I rattle him in again.
No way.
Yep, he comes in looking for that fight, downwind again. He actually comes out to the edge of this field. I was right on the edge of a field. And he was at probably 32 yards. And I'm like, I can't. Like, he already psyched me out once.
So at this
I'm
point,
like,
if you had a
I'm waiting,
compound
man.
in your hand, this deer
dead.
is
Yeah.
dead.
Well, I have another story with that too. But yeah, I missed him at 32 yards, shot right over his back.
32.
Yep. And before that, actually, on the 29th of October, I had the biggest deer of my life in the woods come by at probably 25, 30 yards.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I had this deer on trail camera the 15th, the 21st, and then I hunted him the 29th. And he was coming about every 8 to 7 or 8 days through this piece of property. It's just a pass-through property, really.
Okay.
And he's like a 16 or 17 pointer,
gotcha.
which we counted from the footage and our pictures,
God.
And yeah, just a mass ball, just
a hell of a
wrap around. He's a giant, yeah.
Jesus.
And he showed up on that piece the 29th at 8 o'clock at night, and I was in there that morning. And at 7:30, he came through with another little buck through this little food plot in the bottom, and I could have had a shot. I had a clearing actually at probably 35 yards, but I'm not gonna take that shot. I wasn't comfortable.
Is that a bomb with traditional equipment? It's 35. You're
it
like,
depends who you are. How
man.
much I've only been hunting with this thing for a year and a half.
Or the Plo Joan down the street,
right?
So,
Yeah.
So
exactly.
what's the equivalent? Like, all right, you got your traditional equipment, you got your compound sitting side by side. What would you equivalent and kind of rank as like, all right, this is the equivalent of a 35-yard shot with a trad bow? Is a 35-yard shot with a trad bow like a 60-yard poke with the compound?
Yeah.
70-yard
Say
poke?
probably more about 70.
Yeah.
So double.
70-yard
But
shots about
then
30.
again,
about double?
It depends who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
So it all depends too. If you're shooting like instinctive, are you string crawling, or are you using the point on your arrow?
I mean, either way,
How
it
are
don't
you-
matter.
Oh,
35
I know.
yards is a poke
It is
for.
a poke though.
Yep.
So
I don't
okay,
know.
Miles, what about you? What's your max?
My max, I'm with Cody. My comfortable range is probably 25 yards. I'm comfortable there. I would shoot a deer at 30. I mean, that's
Okay.
I'm out there. I can group them in there at 30 pretty decent.
And by group, and what are we talking? Are we talking a 6-inch group at 30? Are we talking a 10-inch group at 30? Are we talking about a 4-inch group at 30?
6 to 8 inch group at
Paper
30.
plate,
in
probably,
there.
yeah.
If you've been shooting every day. If
Sure.
I haven't been shooting for a while, there's no way I'm going to pick that. Like this year, I'm working 6-12s. And I don't have time to shoot my recurve at all, and that plays a huge variable as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
You got to shoot those things religiously.
Yeah.
And I wasn't shooting a lot, and I have deer out there 25 yards, and it's just a different aspect. You see those deer out there, like, wow, that's a ways, And like Cody, I had the biggest deer in my life. It was a 170-inch deer. I rattled him in, and he's going to hit this trail. I mean, I'm sitting right on him, set up for 10-yard shots,
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'm going to hang my horns up when he hits that trail at the bottom of the hill, hang him up, ride him all the way in. He comes up and hangs up at a bush, 36 yards. And I couldn't bring myself to do it, I'm not too man to say I've wounded bucks before in my life, and
Yeah.
it's a terrible feeling, as
It's
anybody knows.
absolutely the worst feeling that there is.
And I couldn't bring myself to do it, and it was a picture perfect compound shot. He hung out there just looking around, you know, I could have ranged him all day long, just smoked him. But that's part of it. That's how it is.
You got
to get over that. That's part of it. I think.
If you take your compound, they're going to come in at 10 yards. If you take your recurve,
right,
they're going to come in at 35, 40.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's the way it works.
Yeah.
That's like what happened to me this year. Like I said before, the second time I ever took my compound to the woods ever this year, because it was a spot that I seen deer coming in like at 35 yards, and it's a rut. And I was gonna go to one spot. I had both bows in the truck, and I was gonna go to one main spot where they were spraying anhydrous on the field, and they're gonna be right by where I was gonna be. I'm like, I ain't gonna be there, so I went across the road where I was gonna be at. So I grabbed the stick, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna grab the wheels. I'm gonna take a bullet here. I know what's gonna happen probably, and lo and behold, shot a really nice deer. But you know what? He was at 20 yards broadside. I could have easily shot him with my recurve easily.
Sure.
He was right there, but I'm a lefty with my compound, so the shot I had to do was kind of Choctawish, but I made it happen, right? But you know, I was on my knees on the stand. I had that bow cantered. I don't know how I did it. I wish I had a GoPro on my head. I wish I did at the time.
You made it happen.
Made it happen, right? So I killed him. But my preferred shots is 15. I'm like I said, I'm a 15-yard guy. That's like the sweet spot for me.
Sure.
So if they're like Miles said, they're at 30 yards. I'm kind of like, I don't want to do that, because you know, with a stick bow, it's like 30 yards equivalent to like a 70-yard shot with a compound. So, you know, that deer's feeding, let's say, not on high alert at all, which I've messed up in the past with my compound with deer on high alert. So they'll be feeding, and, you know, let's say you're about ready, you pull back, hit your anchor, and you're focused on that spot, and you let the arrow go. That deer might go, oh, look at that piece of grass right there, and move. You know, that arrow isn't going as fast as a compound. They could hit back, you could hit high, like you can miss. So that's why I like them in tight, because, you know, when I pull back, I mean, when the arrow goes, they don't hear much but a thwack before they know the arrow's through them, and they don't know what happened.
Sure.
That's why I like them in tight, because there's less that can go wrong. And 15 yards is like a sweet spot, so you're not too high, not too far out. It's just right there in front of you.
Sure. Brett, what about you? Your maximum kill distance in terms of yardage, what would that be?
I think, like Cody said, 25 yards. That's pretty good max, I would say. But, you know, you see a 200 incher at 30. Are you going to let one go?
You're gonna let one go.
You're going to let one.
I know I would.
I don't think I'm man enough to not let one go.
40,
I think.
probably not.
But no, not 40. Not. So I had a little bit of that this year. It's actually the day that Andrew killed his buck with the compound. It was just horrible, nasty day. Rain, sleet. But me and our buddy Jake, he was going to film for me, so we went out, and he got up above me, and this is in the morning, and about 20 minutes after daylight, here comes a doe out into this field, probably 100 yards, and then here comes what I'm guessing probably about 150s, 160-inch 10-pointer. He comes out behind the doe, and I grunted at him, and he's looking, and he keeps following the doe. And they're going the opposite way, so I snort wheezed. He turns around, looks right at me, and then he follows the doe in. So I was like, well, shit. And then Andrew calls, says, I got a buck down. I'm like, well, we're planning on hunting all day, and I talked to him and got done talking to him, and I thought, it started raining. And I'm like, well, let's go help Andrew out. We'll come back. So we did that. Went, got Andrew's deer out, got it in the truck, and it was probably about noon. I looked at Jake, and I said, let's go back out there. So we head back out, and we weren't out there probably another half hour, and hear that buck come out of that same draw with that doe again, still behind the doe. And again, they were out there for a minute, and I let out a grunt, and he's looking. There they went back into the timber. So that's when I looked at Jake, and it was getting late, probably an hour before dark, and I told Jake, I said, you know, I can't sit here in this rain no more. I said, we got to go. And so Jake packs up his camera and packs everything up, and he's getting ready to get down. I was just kind of sitting there. I look up, I said, Jake, don't move, because here he comes. This time he's by himself. So I'm like, oh, shit.
Okay. Game
so
on.
It was so windy that day. Jake was he was pretty far up in that tree, so he's holding on to the tree because he'd taken his harness off and everything. I mean, we're whipping around in there. And within probably 35 seconds, he went from 120 yards to what I thought was about 25. Well, I think he ended up being probably about 22, 23, and I shot right over his back. And, you know, you talk about the disgust you feel with that, and it's pretty horrible.
So you're also about that 25. So
Yeah.
we're saying that basically, what's too close? I mean, if there's a deer
I don't like him under
at
10.
5,
Yeah, I don't like.
I don't like
underneath
him
me.
under 10.
I've never liked that shot with a compound.
Yeah.
Right
I didn't.
underneath me.
I shot a deer.
Even
One of the-
targets, though. Do you like shooting a 5-yard target with the recurve?
No, not
I hate
really.
the 5-yard target.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like 10, 12 yards
Yeah.
is a really good sweet spot.
Right.
Yeah, some of those 3D shoots we go to, we're hitting them at, you know, that one in Missouri we went to, the
little bears.
what was that shoot we went to?
Oh, the Reinhardt.
The Reinhardt 100. We went to that one in Missouri, and like the first half of that, we're shooting 35, 40 yards. And then we get into the second half, and they got targets at 6 yards, 10 yards, and they're the small little gophers or whatever, and we're missing them.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I've been shooting at 35, 40 yards all day.
right?
And-
You should be able to hit, you know, you would think.
Yeah.
You're like, man, that sucker's in my
If
lap.
if anybody has any interest in going to that Reinhardt 100, I would strongly suggest making 2 days out of that, because we did it in one day.
And it was 95 fucking degrees that day.
It was 100 targets, and you
It was
shot
rough.
every 10 targets you shot, you hiked a mile through the hills of Missouri.
I thought I was going to have to do CPR and Brett by the end of it.
We
was
were all
dying.
feeling rough. Hey, thank God for that kid running around with the water.
Oh yeah, couple
was
young
rough.
kids. He could have charged $45 for
Yeah.
that bottle of water, and I was buying it. You got it, buddy.
Yeah.
I've heard some interesting things about all those. Like, there's the tack shoot,
Yeah.
and then there's
I'm
that.
planning to go to one
That
this
look,
year.
those look pretty cool. And then
So-
the right hard 100s. And
So basically, Reinhardt had a safari tour set up for the first half, and that's why I think those shots were so far.
Yeah,
It's so big.
that's how they always usually do that. You know,
Yeah.
the North
Realistic.
American.
was
ranges
Reinhardt
are
make
a
an
little
elephant?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Life size.
Oh
It's pretty
my
cool.
God.
bit- Big
Life
size.
size,
You never been to
giraffe,
one?
too.
That
giraffe
was a
too.
lot of foam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's
It's
fun
actually
time.
not a lot of foam, because what we found out the hard way,
Oh, yeah.
a couple of us didn't hit the
yeah.
insert on that target.
So the insert's foam and
The rest
body's
is fiberglass.
Yeah.
and it will ruin your arrow if you hit the
Arrow
fiberglass.
exploded?
Oh yeah.
You'll go in and it just like, it didn't explode, but like you can see the hairline fractures in the carbon. That should be all should carbon.
Well,
shot.
that and it pulling it out to take
Nice.
your insert with
Yeah,
it.
to-
There's a lot of inserts in the insides of those targets.
All right, so shifting gears here a little bit. If you were to, give your sales pitch to someone that was hovering on the edge of getting into traditional hunting, what would you tell them? Why would you say, you need to try this out?
So there's a feeling you get, and I think everybody who hunts and takes a recurve or longbow to the woods can really relate to this, as far as, it's just you and that bow. Like a deer uses its sense of smell, its speed, its, to survive in the woods. Well, it's just you and that bow. You don't have to rely on a sight pin. You don't rely on this or that. But it's hard to explain.
There's a
until
connection there.
there is a
Yeah.
connection.
I think
as
what
far
you're
as-
saying is like it's all you making
yeah,
it happen.
it's being
It's
that
not the next best product that's making it work. It's you. You're doing
right.
it.
You're
And I know
getting down to that primal level with you and that animal.
Yeah.
As far
It's a
as
different feeling
Yeah.
for sure.
yeah, it is.
It's pretty
man, I feel like
caveman-like,
I feel like
you know?
a badass taking this recurve of the woods.
Yeah.
oh, you do, man.
I was
Yeah.
telling Brett that one day while he was filming me. I'm like, man, don't you just feel like a badass carrying this?
Yeah, right. But there's a different feeling to it, and that's kind of what I would sell.
That's what you would sell.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
you do. How
And
about
I know
you?
I talk, and well, I completely agree with everything he said, and I think part of it comes back to if you were to ask a guy like, "Are you full blown an archer?" and it's like, I'm not down talking compounds, but I'm saying like a guy like me, I somewhat quit the gun hunting because I would much rather kill one with a bow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but then now
Lots of people do.
It's one more step than that. It's just like you're saying primal, but that's what I want to do. And once I did it once, like I said, it just took over. I almost can't go back the other way.
Right.
We're not bashing, you know.
No, yeah, I
don't
it's
think
hard.
so.
It's hard to say that without sounding that way.
Right,
But
it's
I'm
just-
not. Yeah, definitely not bashing
Yeah.
nobody.
It's
Like our buddy Jake, he hunts with a compound, and actually the deer that Andrew showed you, that my buddy Jake, he hunts on my farm. We own that farm.
oh, nice.
Okay, well Jake killed the biggest buck we had on camera this year. So, and he killed it with a compound, 12 yards. Would have been a great shot for me, you know, if I'd have been sitting there.
Yeah.
And everybody asked me, they said, the first thing everybody said was, how mad are you? And I'm like, for about 5 minutes, yeah, I said I was pretty upset. But, you know, you get over it, and whether you're filming or just hunting with a buddy, when your buddy kills one, to me, it's just as exciting if I would have killed it.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. When you're taking off with that goal and trying to get one on film or trying to kill one with your friend, it's got to be that. And if
Yeah.
it's not that, and if it's not, you know, that I'm just as excited kind of moment, that's when friendships go south
Right.
and
Yeah.
things fall
Yeah.
apart and everything like that. Miles, how about you? How would you sell the traditional bow hunting aspect to somebody that was on the fence?
Well, I've gotten a few guys into it actually. You know,
That's cool.
If you're a bow hunter through and through, like all of us here, you know,
That's what I was
you
trying
love
to say.
you love the challenge.
Right.
That's why you got in. That's why you love bow hunting. And I always tell these guys, all of them that ended up buying a recurve, I was like, you're gonna love shooting this thing. It's like when you're a little kid, like we've talked about several times. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you just love to shoot that thing. You sit in your yard for hours and hours and shoot, and you
Yep.
can just keep getting so much better.
Yeah.
And then when you finally kill a deer, I tell you what, I only killed a doe this year, and that was just the feeling when I got up to that deer was like, I remember telling Katie, I'm like, that feels like the biggest buck that I've killed in
and
my
that's
life.
what I
You get up
said.
to
It
that
may
thing,
as
like,
well have
that's
been
awesome.
250
It's the coolest
inches.
thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And that's, I guess, another point on if somebody wants to get into it. I think people need to know that, like, if you think you might want to get into it, buy one just to shoot at targets. Hunt with your compound. Keep doing that. But just shooting it at targets, the 3D shoots we do, it's a blast. And everybody we hang around, they're all good dudes. They're all fun guys. You know, that's something that's fun to do. You don't necessarily have to take off and start hunting with it.
That's a good point. AJ, what about you? What would how would you sell it? Sell the traditional lifestyle, I guess, hunting.
You know, like I said before, like we started shooting 3 years ago, and these two shot compounds for a while. I mean, no big deal, right? But I was said, like, hey, pick up a stick bow, and he finally did. Then he finally did.
I was giving you shit. I ain't picking up that stick bow. What do you mean?
Yeah, I'm like, come
dude?
on, be a real man,
Yeah.
Cody. Pick up that stick. And he finally he had his grandpa made him a longbow. He picked the thing up, and I saw that little twinkle in his eye.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's hooked. And then like,
Bad hook.
and, you know, like we go around and people see what we're doing, and you know, like Miles said, we have buddies. I know two buddies I know that I've dived in and got stick bows, like recurves, longbows, you name it. They've just started shooting, and they tell me, dude, this is a blast. This is fun.
Look at Skopecki. He
I
can't
think-
get
Yeah,
away
I know,
from
like
it
Nick.
now.
And I think it all comes back to that making you feel like you have your first bow again.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like a little kid.
mean,
sure.
And you cannot quit shooting it. You're shooting it every day.
Can't put it down. You're
No.
addicted.
I think
I
it's
mean-
more
Sitting in the house
expensive too.
looking at it.
I mean, like
Yeah.
too is, you know, I shot a compound pretty much since I was, probably 7th grade, but I shot fingers, no sights, old bows, and I got my first compound when I was in junior high or something like that. But, you know, you go out and shoot it for a few rounds, you know, and you got sight pins, you know, and it's dialed, you're on, you know, and then, but when you pick up a stick bow, it's not just the bow, it's you. And the satisfaction of, you know, pulling back, focusing on that target, and watching that arrow flight just go, the arrow fly and dive right into where you're aiming at. You want that arrow to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a feeling like you never believe into like what he said, into an animal. You just,
Yeah.
it's the ultimate geek out.
I
You're
think
just
that
like,
was the
whoa.
coolest part is watching your arrow hit where you want.
to.
As far as compound versus traditional.
So like when you're shooting, like, okay, we're shooting 10 yards is one thing, but we're like at the Reinhardt, we're shooting 40 yards in the big targets. It was so cool standing behind him. I have videos of him, everybody. You watch some arrows that dive right into that 12 ring or 10 ring or 8 ring, wherever we hit, or even the ass of that big
Big elephant.
Shoot me out.
It was just so cool.
Still hit
It's just so cool. Yeah, it was a 5. It was just so cool. And if someone, it's hard to explain to somebody that hasn't experienced it, but if they ever go with us, like I've took two 2 younger kids with us to bow shoots, and they shoot compounds, no big deal. We give them a rats of shit, but it's just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
But they see it, and they, I say, hey, shoot me, want to shoot my bow, and they're kind of timid. I said, no, shoot it. You won't hurt it. I mean, it's a stick. If it breaks, you can get another one. No big deal, right? They shoot it, and you just turn around, and they have that look in their eyes like, this is kind of cool. It gets addicting. It's what it gets. It's addicting.
I'm sure it's one of those things like you don't use it, you lose it type things.
Yeah.
Like I feel like what do you guys think is the amount of time like you're like, all right, I shot a good group today. How many days can you go without and still be that effective? Or is it like during the season, during the summer? I know I like to shoot my bow between 5 and 7 days a week, especially, in your May, June, July, August, September, leading up to season. But for you guys, it's got to be, daily, every other day?
I would say
Otherwise
that
you lose that skill, you lose that muscle memory.
Yeah. I would say that if you're I actually think that's impressive to me that you would shoot a compound 5 to 7 days a week, because I would have never done that. And that's, difference in opinion. But as far as that recurve goes, or longbow or traditional in general, you got to shoot that thing. You got to shoot that. And another side of that is, I know me and Joe have talked about that before. If you walk outside one day and you shoot 3 arrows that are you miss 2 and you barely clip the target on the third one, just turn around and go back in the house. Some days it just don't get no better. Other day, I mean, I could be wrong, but some days you just don't have it. But other days, and that's because I think if you shoot some bad arrows like that, you don't want to keep doing whatever bad habit you're doing. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a hard question on how much to shoot that, because you got to shoot it as much as you can, but
don't overshoot.
Definitely
body
don't
gets
overshoot
tired for sure.
Yeah, if you're tired, like we were at the Reinhardt,
give it up for the day. Yeah,
you're not doing anything but
Worse
getting used to a bad habit.
habits. Yep.
Through the season, though, like, we never shot. I didn't
I
shoot
do.
enough. I think I blame that on a lot of the reasons why I missed that buck at 30 yards,
sure.
Yeah. And I missed kind of bad, but
almost every time I think that, and I'm pretty fortunate with the land that I hunt. It's where my house is. I can walk out the door.
That's very fortunate.
Right. No,
That's awesome.
I get that, but I liked and this, it might be different for somebody that's driving to a place to hunt, but I like to try to fire off 1-2 arrows if they both smoke the target, and I pull them and going hunting. I don't shoot my broadhead into the target, but still I like to try to shoot a couple times.
Field point in your case.
Right,
I'm going to go chuck that thing out there at 15 or 20 yards.
Right.
Boom, boom,
I think
I'm
I've
ready to
always
rock
thought, even with my compound when I was hunting with it, I've always thought that was a good thing to do, to just shoot a handful of arrows and then take off.
I'm with you on that. Right. Confidence is key.
And I know, like I said,
compound,
not everybody can walk out their front door, shoot their target, pull them, and then walk to their stand. I get that. But whatever you got to do, I think that's a good thing to do.
Sure. Getting out of the kind of the gear side of things and into the stories now. Miles, we'll start with you for this one, then we'll jump to Cody, then to AJ, and then Brett. But what do you guys think is the coolest story that you have to tell? Like your favorite kill of all time with a traditional bow. What would it have to be, Miles?
I would definitely say, I'd say my doe that I killed, but even filming Cody with his first deer he killed with his recurve this year, it was early. And I was filming him with that deer. When that deer walked out and he had his recurve in hand, I mean, anybody that films and you're behind the camera, you're still excited, you know.
Oh, yeah.
He killed that deer with his recurve, and I was just as pumped as I killed it. But then I killed one myself, and, man, it's just the best feeling in the world. It's so cool. You get up to that deer like, man, that's freaking awesome. Yeah. Killed with a stick and string, no sights. Never thought I'd be doing this before. Mm-hmm. But that's probably my coolest story right there.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. We like kind of had this league all summer long, $10 in, we're shooting for money, and we practice like every week, and then season rolls around, and the first hunt me and Miles goes on, or we went on this food plot, doe comes out, and it's like, all right, here it is. It's time to, let's do this, the preparation, see if it pays off. And, we got it done, and that was pretty cool.
I thought the coolest thing about that video when you sent it to me was, I had to backtrack it and, rewind. I was like, man, with the traditional bow, a person that doesn't watch, because there is not a lot of outdoor media. There's not a lot of videos out there of people doing and getting it done with the traditional equipment. And when I watched it the first time, I was like, he shot? Like what? I
Right.
saw the doe kick,
Yeah.
and I was surprised. I thought I was going to see that arrow kind of
Wow.
doink out there, like whoom, going
Yeah.
in big
Part of
parabola
that's
and
with
everything.
Cody. He doesn't like to stop the deer before he shoots him, trying to break him. With that.
Yeah,
It's
he
like-
gives me shit all the time. Rat shoot. Oh, what?
So I had to rewind it. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, there he shot. Okay,
Yeah.
I see it now, and it's impressive. Like you would think that a compound is like, boom, it's there. And
Yeah.
if you don't have like high speed slow motion or
Yeah.
anything on your kill or whatever, it's like, man, I can't hardly see the arrow. But with the recurve, I just thought, like, when I watched that video you sent me the first time, I was like, man, that happened fast. That arrow got there quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So-
that's something we all commented on that one. That I
Yeah.
don't know if it was. I mean, that arrow flew fast in that video.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So what is it for you, Brett? Your favorite
I mean-
experience, favorite kill with a traditional equipment of all time?
You know, like I said, my first season, I killed the buck first, then the coyote, then the doe, and
Yep.
when
That's
you're
a hell
ask-
of a season.
Well, yeah.
Like, first season.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you can't get too much better than
when
that.
you're,
with the traditional
when you're asking
equipment.
which one was my favorite, I feel like I have to lean towards that first one, just because I mean, it's the first one. You know,
Yep.
It's the first time I'd done it, but I'd almost have to say that coyote, man. That coyote was probably 300 yards out in this field, and I just squealed on my hand, and he come running right to me, and I had about a 12-yard shot on him, and I smoked it. I mean, right through the heart. And he actually, when I shot, the arrow was, I mean, right there in the heart, low body. And the arrow looked like I just hit fur. And I got down, the coyote took off, actually. It passed straight through him, took off, and I got down, and I found him. I actually blood trailed him about 30 yards and found him, but I don't know. The buck, the doe, and the coyote, the first three there, the first season, it's all about the same to me, but that coyote, for some reason, just seems like it was a little cooler.
Sure. AJ, what about you? Favorite traditional experience?
Ever since I picked that bow up the last 3 years, I haven't killed a deer with one yet. I've always killed last 2 years. I've killed them with a gun or the training wheels.
Sure.
But this last
Do they
Yeah,
give
he's got her, he's got her.
any shit for that?
keep it coming.
Yeah.
They gave you shit?
No.
Oh, no way.
No.
No, but
Maybe.
it was.
I just figured I'd hop in on the
Oh,
bandwagon.
yeah.
Atta boy.
The arrow was so,
So I have two stories.
Take it.
I have two stories for you. The first one was this year. It was late October. I was hunting with my recurve, and it was right before dark. It was just too dark for the camera light.
Mm-hmm.
I was wrapping up, and all of a sudden I hear something coming. And it was Bigfoot. I could hear it. It sounded heavy. Well, it was one of the bigger deer I had on camera, and he came within 10 yards right behind me. And it was tense. Like, it was intense. Like, I haven't felt that in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a big mature deer like that at 10 yards, when all you had look down and you have a stick just blowing in the wind, it's just like, holy shit! Like, I have to put this sharp stick through his lungs
Yeah.
at 10 yards.
Yeah.
And it was just, everything just went slow motion. And that was when that moment I knew. I was like, oh boy. This is cool. Like, it was cool. I mean,
Oh boy, I wish I had a compound.
Oh yeah.
well, no, I couldn't shoot him anyway. I couldn't shoot him anyway because he was in the thick stuff, and if I had a decoy that night, he probably would have came out. But
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have shot. I probably would have shot, but it wouldn't have been on film
Sure.
because it was just too dark for camera light. But he was
Mm-hmm.
at like 10 yards. I could have pinwheeled him if he was at 10 yards. But the fact that that initial just like, I don't know, you see a big deer and your heart just feels like it's just gone. You're like, oh
Yep.
boy. It was just so tense, and that's what got me fired up. And ever since then, that's all I could think about. It was just that moment. It's a whole different feeling. It's just like killing one, but also I like watching people shoot stuff too. I think it's more fun to watch people shoot one with one than anything else. Okay, this is my second story. Is rewind last spring. Me and him were turkey hunting, and a big box blind.
It would have to be a
we had-
big fucking box blind to
Oh, it was
hold you to it.
it was a big one.
Was it an
Big,
8x8?
real big.
It was a big wooden one.
7x7.
7x7. It's a big one.
It's a homemade one.
So we had like 4 or 5 gobblers out in the field and a bearded
We
hen.
had a hen. We had
Bearded
a
hen?
hen walk 2 feet from the blind.
It was
right
a
past us.
bearded hen though.
No, that was just a hen, and then we had a bearded hen at 10 yards, but we had 2 giant gobblers
Yeah, they're studs.
out in the field coming in, and then you can go from there.
Yeah, they're coming in. I mean, brushes dragging the ground kind of gobblers, big
Oh,
studs.
so
They're big.
Oh, they were
Yeah.
huge.
They're big. So basically, that morning, if we both had shotguns, we could have doubled up and been sweet as hell. But anyway, he has bow. I'm filming him, and you could hear me talking to him, like, "You good?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm good." But they're walking at like 20 yards, and we thought they were going to come in, but they pulled the old sneaky on us, and they went out in the field like, I don't know, about 30 yards or so.
tons of bitches.
And when he drew his bow back, they heard the of his arrow, and they took off. And I'm like, he led that turkey. I shit you not, that arrow just grazed the either the front or the bottom of the brisket. I can't remember what it was. It took feathers and a little bit of flesh off of him. I was like, holy shit! If you hit that turkey, dude, oh my god, that'd been sweet.
So basically, on that one, what happened was the one hen walked right past our blind. I mean, 2 steps from it, and then I had that bearded hen just stuck right there at 10 yards, and those gobblers were about, like he said, 30, 35 yards or so, and they just would not come no closer. And we waited forever, and finally, you can shoot the bearded hen. So I've never shot one, but I looked at Andrew since he had the camera, and I said, I'm going to shoot that bearded hen. And I pulled back on her, and like he said, she heard that draw, and she kind of started scooting away, and those 2 gobblers were about 35 yards on a dead run. Damn. And I was already pulled back and committed, so I was going to try to let one fly. And, I clipped that gobbler 35 yards on the run. He's got it on camera. Mm-hmm. But he looked at me and goes, "Oh, man, you missed." And I just looked at him and said, "But how cool would it have been if I would have smoked that Tom?"
Another cool experience I got is actually telling my dad that I actually killed one with a recurve, because my whole life I've gotten shit from my dad and my grandpa saying, "Oh yeah, keep up with the training wheels," So I think that was pretty cool to actually come back and say, "Hey, I did it," That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's something for me too, actually, because like just growing up, especially when I was little, too young to hunt, and all those either phone calls or when Dad got home and he looked at me and he said, "I stuck one tonight." He's waiting on it. It was always, "I stuck one," or I get a text that says, "I stuck one." And I think that, to me, is what's so much cooler about bow hunting in general. It's like, I don't know, when I say I shot one, like with a gun, it just doesn't seem like when you stick one and now you got to go out there and find it. And then you find it, like Miles was talking, there's just nothing better than that. And then when I did it with the stick, there's literally nothing better than that.
I can understand how it would be very addicting, and how, like, just with my compound, I feel like when I got my compound dialed in and I can, shoot out to 60, 70, 80, and I'm grouping well with it, I'm like, man, this is like a part of me for the next 4 or 5 months. Ever since I pick it up, I'm like, this is, you and I are going to become one. And I bet that is an even heightened level when you guys are talking about like a stick bow or recurve, whatever. And I can understand how it gets really, really addicting.
And like I said, we were at that Iowa Deer Classic last weekend, and one of the guys we talked to was that Josh Bomar. And that's kind of like what he was saying, and he's actually taking it one step past what I'm doing, what we're doing, and he's built his own bow.
Yeah,
and now he's hunting with that. So that's something I'm definitely looking to get into, is building my own bows. And but that's that's a ways away. But that's what he's saying, is it's a part of you,
Yeah.
And that's there. Like I said, nothing better than that.
All right, so now we're going to get into the controversy, if you will. And the question that I have for you guys is, as people that have social media in the outdoors and people that watch YouTube content, etc., I feel like about 5-ish years ago, hunting public land got really, really, really hot. I feel like in the last 2-ish years, saddle hunting got really, really, really hot. So my question is, do you guys think the traditional bow hunting is a fad? Do you think it will go away? Do you think it's here to stay? But do you think, when you're thinking about traditional archery, do you think people are getting into it more so because it's like, this is the challenge that I need? Like, I love bow hunting so much that I'm going to take it up a level. Or do you think there are people that are like, oh, this is really hard, and now I can say that blah, 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 blah. This is hard. Look at me. I'm a badass. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys think about that? Initial impressions of that question?
As far as from a like a visual aspect, you see a lot of people like on videos or like producing content, doing it for they want to get views. Like everybody doesn't want to see a compound kill, but they'll see a recurve kill. Like you said, there was no content as far as traditional archery.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are possibly doing it for that reason, but there is a big swing in the popularity in traditional archery right now. I think as far as what I'm seeing from social media and whatnot, but I hope it's here to stay. I think that's cool, but that's just my aspect on it.
What do you think, Miles?
I think Cody's right. I think there's a big swing in it right now, and I'd like to think that it's exploding.
Right.
I think there's a big swing in it. And I was talking to Brett the other day, we were talking, and he said, well, I'd like to think it's blowing up, but, you go to these expos and stuff like that, all these deer, you don't see a lot of traditional stuff. But, I mean, it's starting to get bigger, I think. And I think there'll always be the group of guys that want to take it a step further and do that in the long run.
Sure.
But I think it's getting bigger. I'm with Cody on that one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. What about you, AJ?
I'm on the same boat because you go on social media and you see. I remember like 4 years ago, the compounds were top dog. You never see anything about anybody shooting anyone with traditional. Everything was like it was under the table, right? And all of a sudden, like let's say like Tom Klum, Aaron Snyder, all them guys came in the game because Aaron Snyder used to shoot compound. And then he said, "Screw you guys! You guys don't think I can do it? I'm gonna shoot a stick bow." And he never looked back since. And people saw him doing that and they're like, "That's kind of cool." So when you look online and you see all that, all them videos and all them views, and then you go through Instagram or Facebook and you follow these groups and follow these pages and stuff, you start slowly piecing together all this stuff. And then, we've been shooting all this time and you never think anything of it. Then all of a sudden you go, hey, he's shooting one now. He's shooting one now. He's shooting one now.
Yeah.
How's this happening? Well, it's big names in the industry changing it up and doing things like we last weekend we were talking to Josh Bomar and he says no one wants to see someone shoot 180 inch through the compound, but they want to see you shoot one with a recurve.
Well, I think
I don't know about 180.
I think he was,
well, you know what I mean.
I think he was more saying like, as far as if you looked at two identical deer, both 140 inches, if you had somebody that filmed a 140 inch deer get killed with a compound, it would have X amount of views. But if you watched a video with 140 inch, exactly the same as the last one, somebody killed with a recurve, people are watching that. They want to see that a little more, I think.
Because there's a video on YouTube, I don't know how many views it has, but it's a shit ton. It's in Kansas, 8 years ago. And it was an over-shoulder shot, guy shooting a recurve, and it's a big, giant half-rack buck. And this guy he watched him come in for like 100-some yards away. He grunts him in with his mouth. He comes right in, an over-the-shoulder shot. You see the whole thing go down. The guy plugs him. The deer goes 50 yards and piles over, and the guy goes ecstatic. That deer has more views. Looking back at it now, you can probably find it pretty easy. The guy shoots like blue fletchings, and he has like an old beanie cap. It's half-rack buck. You can't miss it on YouTube. It's hard to describe, but it's on there somewhere. It has like almost close to 1 million views.
That's a lot.
That. Like it's a lot, but it's also 7-8 years old. But still, the fact that it has 1 million views, it's like holy shit.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Just like that, like he said, Brett said in the comment like that. People want to see something different.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I would totally agree with that, and just the nature of outdoor media in general. It's like right now, what's spiking in popularity is like shed season. In a week or two, people are going to be done shed hunting. People are going to not care about that anymore. And then we're going to get into turkey hunting, and then we're going to get into, on the management side, it's going to be how do you find a big deer during the summer, and how do you plant food plots in the summer? What TSI project are you working on to hold them on your ground? And then we're getting into the fall where it's all the bow hunting, all the gun hunting content that's out there, and then hopefully that happens, and then we're back in the same cyclical pattern, and people are like, man, I want something different. I want something interesting. And I feel like traditional bow hunting certainly is that.
Yeah.
It's definitely different. Interestingly enough, we were talking about this about 20 episodes ago when it came to like the crossbow versus cell cam episode and which is more deadly. And we were looking at the Illinois, specifically harvest reporting statistics. The coolest thing I thought about traditional hunting was for the last 10 years, there has been plus or minus like 0.5%. It's been somewhere between like 0.8% and like 1.8-ish% people that traditionally bow hunt in Illinois. It hasn't it's just been very
Really?
steady, slow and steady. Just right there, about 1% of people traditionally archery hunt, and I thought that was pretty interesting. But I myself, just because social media is out there these days, it feels like to me traditional bow hunting is a thing that's like maybe that's the next thing that gets really hot.
That's
I
good,
feel like
though.
in the early thousands it was like killing big deer, managing big deer, and then as of late it's become public land, and as of even more late it's become like saddle hunting is a big industry thing. And I feel like traditional bow hunting, it'd be pretty cool for that to be the next thing, just because that's like the level of difficulty.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Right.
That's highly impressive for a guy to get on a mature buck and to pattern that buck and to kill him at, less than 25 yards with traditional equipment, no sights.
Yeah. Different ball game.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Very impressive. That is a skilled individual, in my opinion.
Right.
So
I mean, people
Yeah.
tend to conform, so hopefully like getting more content out there and see these big guys, going to trad, hopefully it'll inspire a lot of people to make the switch,
yeah.
But
So, you guys think you're gonna pick up the training wheels this season coming up?
Absolutely
we
not.
talked about it, and if
No.
we're on a big deer, 200 inches,
Yeah.
and he's coming, we don't know, if we're not really patterning him, but he's in the area, do you think me and you, Miles, are going to take compound with us?
Probably not.
Oh, yeah, you say that now.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Cody was pushing more than me because I had my doubts wanting to pick up the compound a little more, you
Yeah.
know. He's like, oh, recurve.
But, and what we've talked about on that, and I did it that one half season I hunted with the recurve at the end of it. It's something that I went through that year. So then last season, it's something you went through when you started.
Yeah.
And as far as, and me and Miles have talked about this a lot, but you have got to make up your mind if you're going to hunt with a compound or hunt with a recurve. Because if you're questioning it, you're going to just beat yourself up over which one you took that day. If you had one, a nice deer at 40 yards, and now you're going to be mad that you didn't have your compound. I think you honestly have to just jump in and decide, I'm going to hunt with this recurve or I'm going to hunt with this compound.
And I did that this
Now-
year, I was working so much of one day during the rut, I got on a Sunday, I picked up my compound, and I went out and I passed up 140, 150-inch deer with my compound, 3-year-old, at 12 yards. But if I had my recurve in my hand that deer, there's no way he was getting by me. You know?
Right, yeah.
And then in a late season food source too, you get those deer pattern coming out 40 yards, I would pick up my compound then. I would definitely do that.
Right.
Sure. All right, let's take a piss break. And we are continuing our conversation. I'm so glad we just took a piss.
Hey,
Holy
yeah.
shit.
I'm with you on that
About
one.
the bus.
We got a lot of brewskis on the table right now, and man, about that 1 hour mark, I was like, oh boy, we need to shut her down real quick. But we're kind of at the point where we're about ready to wrap her up, and we're on the Would You Rather segment. So I got a list of questions for you guys that are kind of tricky, and we'll start here, and we'll go boom. We'll go to AJ, then Miles, then Brett. So, would you rather eat tag soup with trad equipment next year? You don't kill a single thing. No deer. Not even a doe. Or shoot a buck with a shotgun.
Ooh, I really don't want to answer that question.
But you got to.
I'll
That's a
take
hard
the
question.
buck with the shotgun.
Yeah?
I will. I'll take that.
Fair enough. AJ?
I take the buck with a shotgun because I've done that the last 2 years, so I might as well just keep the train rolling, I guess. I mean, it's gun season.
Right.
If it's time to fill the freezer, if I need meat,
Oh yeah,
I'm
for sure.
I'm getting the gun out and going and getting it done.
Okay. Miles, how about you?
I think I'm going to eat tag soup.
Oh,
This is the first year
Is he
I have.
bullshitting right now?
This is the first year I haven't killed a buck in probably 5 years, and I kind of accepted the fact you're not going to kill a buck every year with a recurve.
Right.
Sure.
I think I'm going to eat tag soup.
I feel like that's a good mindset going into it, too. When you're dabbling in trad equipment, I mean,
Yeah.
shit.
Yep.
you got to be okay with like, all right, I'm gonna give her hell. I'm gonna take my rutcation. I'm gonna hunt as many days as I can.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen, then that is the way it's supposed to be. Either something didn't go right enough, or
Right.
some, not right place, not right time. You kind of have to accept that. I feel.
And me and Cody were hunting this year during gun season with the recurve in our hand, and definitely could have shot a couple bucks with a shotgun. Then
Yeah, a lot of
60,
opportunities.
70 yards, just some of my main hit listers, and I just never been one to pick up the gun, but that's just me, but I've never knocked anybody for doing it.
You say that till you come over for deer tacos. I don't let you in.
I'm my own.
Brett, how about you? Would you kill a deer with
I
a
will
gun
never
this year?
go a deer season without putting something on the ground, whether it be gun or bow. But
Okay.
I would be way happier with shooting one with a bow, especially a recurve. But at the end of the day, I don't buy meat all year long. If it's chili, tacos, anything we eat at our house, it's deer meat. So in that aspect, I'm filling a freezer.
I feel like lots of people can relate with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's been Garrett and I were talking about this the other day. I don't even know. I started to learn how to process our own deer, like fully get it from the field to the freezer when I was about 14 years old. And Garrett and I were talking about it. We're about 100 deer deep in the processing. Like, think all the money that we've saved.
And that's the same way. That's the same exact way I was born
crazy.
into that.
Yeah.
We do everything in the garage from the woods to the freezer. Everything's done by us.
Right.
So, like
it gives
I said,
you a good feeling of satisfaction,
Right.
when you eat that hamburger, when you eat that steak,
Right.
Where it
when you
comes
pop that piece of
from.
jerky in
Right.
your mouth, when you eat that chunk of
well,
sausage.
and you go out a couple times a year, or a couple times every few months, and you're going out and buying steaks. That's all you got to do. You don't have to buy it every time you want something, because we have meat. We already have it,
Yeah,
and that's something I'll always be that way.
sure.
And that's what I did this season. I went out shotgun, and I shot one out of a blind with the gun. Now, was I
Are
as
you guys gonna kick him out of the clan
He
here?
was
We
just
about
saying he's
did.
done
I've
that.
heard
We about did.
I've heard enough of this bullshit, and I always come back with
Andrew, chuck him out of that.
yeah. Well,
Coppers Creek.
you better be
Bow
ready if
hunters.
you're gonna throw me out.
Covers Creek, man. Covers Creek shoots whatever the fuck they feel like.
Well, how are you gonna knock a guy for that?
No,
I'm
I'm
just
not.
kidding.
No.
I would. I feel the same way.
But that's one thing we said going into this. All of us agreed, we'll just produce our bow kills. Nothing but bow kills, Coppers Creek.
Yep.
I mean, we haven't posted our gun kills or nothing,
No. And actually, I filmed my gun kill, and it's I'd say all right video. But then Andrew on his muzzleloader kill, I got a pretty good video of that.
Yeah.
And I got him for 5, 10, 15 minutes feeding in that, and then Andrews, I got the shot, and then I got him running about 30 steps, and then stumbling, falling over. It's a pretty sweet deal.
Damn, that's awesome.
I'll have
When
to
you
show
see
you
him
that.
tip over, holy shit.
Yeah.
Best feeling in
Oh,
the
we
world.
got
No
as
doubt.
far as
That's
watching one tip over on film. That's one of the better ones I think that we
I
have.
also got the one that was shot over top the head. My GoPro, so you see
Yeah.
the gun barrel, see him too, and the whole thing go down.
Bow hunters.
The
Hey,
next
where are
one-
we at on that recurve score, by the way, Cody?
We're going on to the next question here.
This is a tricky one. Would you rather plant no food plots this year or not be able to use a deer stand? That's a tricky question.
That really is
Cody, what do
that's
you
a good
think?
question, because I do plant a lot of food plots too, and they do help. I feel like
absolutely.
they help as far as deer passing through a lot. And I actually had the biggest year of my life come through my food plot, but I'm gonna have to go with I'll take the tree stands on that one. I'd rather hunt out of a tree stand than have food plots.
Okay, Miles, how about you?
I don't know. I mean, over the years when I was younger, growing up, me and my stepdad, they got me into hunting. We never planted food plots, did anything like that.
Sure.
I've been getting into planting food plots, and I really think it establishes a hell of a travel corridor
Right.
with mature deer or whatever. But I think I would hunt on the ground. I wouldn't be scared to do it.
So you would plant the food plots and say, piss on the deer stand.
Yeah, I would do it.
I think that's what I would do, too.
No
To
shit,
be honest.
really?
I love planting food plots.
Hey,
Yeah.
how many of
It's
those
so
beers?
integral to
How many of
that
those
food.
beers has Miles had? You don't seem right.
I think it makes a big difference, man. Food plots, seriously. I've been learning over the years. I didn't
Yeah.
think so, but just even early season, which is huge. I think a huge factor, just getting those green plots in.
Yeah.
Those bucks, deer, whatever, does, they're coming through, and it's just establishing that corridor. And I think it makes a huge difference all year round. Really does. Gets them
agree.
coming through and getting that route established.
So this is kind of a scary thing. 2 weekends ago, I went down and hung out with my buddy Austin Meyer. He lives in Henderson, Illinois. He's
Austin.
he's
I know
Clark
Austin.
Cummings' son-in-law. So he married Clark's daughter. Clark, probably one of the best bow hunters, in my opinion, the best bow hunter in our section of Illinois. Like, Bucks is done bow hunting by like November 15th every year.
Wow.
I don't remember the last time Clark picked up a gun and didn't, wasn't bucked out by first gun. So incredible. And Austin was telling me that just because with Clark's affiliation with Whitetail Properties, so he's got his real estate license and he's a Whitetail Properties land specialist. And he was saying that he and Clark had walked a farm that was huge, like hundreds of acres, like pushing 500, 600 acres.
Ooh, it's a big farm.
Huge farm, right? Bigger than any of the ones we hunt. And was saying there was no food on the property. They did not find a single antler. But, here they are walking these 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 acre chunks that they managed that are loaded, and they're finding 10, 20 a piece on those tracts of land. And it's crazy just how many more deer antlers you're going to find, how many more deer are going to congregate on your land when you have that food source available to them. So I think that's the reason why I would pick it. But, Brett, what do you think?
We have on our property, there's a lot of field edges to the timber. Most of the property we own is timber, with very minimal farm ground. But we do hunt those field edges,
Mm-hmm.
And for me, we've never put in food plots, so I think I'd just keep the stands. But as you were just talking about the sheds you find on that, I think that the way I've always looked at our 2 chunks of property is that they're pass-through places. There's big timber on both sides of our ground in both spots. And I think that most of those deer that you're seeing, like you might set a trail camera out there and not get a whole lot, but then come season, they're running through there. It's always been a pass-through. But like you were just saying, if I were to plant those plots, would those deer stay there more? And it's hard to say. And I know you haven't seen my ground, but
And that's a good question, would they stay there?
Yeah, well, all right. I don't know, and maybe me choosing the stands is the wrong option, and I should be putting those plots in, and maybe they would stay there, maybe they won't. But I don't see putting plots out hurting anything. I think that's going to help you no matter what. But are they going to stay there?
Right.
Sure.
I've always said you're as only as good of a hunter as you are as the ground you hunt.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree. I know a lot of guys that go out one day a year and kill one with a muzzleloader at 120 yards, and it's a giant.
Yeah.
And they do that multiple years in a row, but they hunted literally less than, like astronomically less than what I hunted. As the amount of time I've spent out there.
Yeah.
Guys that I wouldn't, say are a real great hunter, but they've killed some giant deer.
Right.
That's an interesting argument in and of
I
itself.
was kind of
that's a real interesting.
away from that.
Yeah,
'cause
no.
I didn't want to bring that up.
No,
but
that's a good point. I feel like not to get on a side tangent here, but I feel like all of us, if you think about the biggest deer you've ever hunted, for Garrett and I, we've never. I don't believe that we've ever had a 200-inch deer on camera.
No.
We've had a couple that are, in the ballpark of that 170s, 180s range. Just, it's not all the time. It's not every year. But even in a air quote big buck state like Illinois,
Right.
I don't feel like there's not 200-inch deer peeking behind every tree.
Few and far
just,
between, really.
just because you let a deer get to 6 years old, it's not going to necessarily make that. And
right.
Sure.
so I do feel like there's certain pockets of the state and of the country that grow them. And I don't know if that's because of the deer management neighborhoods in those areas or just for whatever reason the resources available in those areas, but it's difficult to say. So
Well, and that's like, the property that I hunt, especially the Elmwood farm there, my dad and my grandpa, they hunted it their whole lives,
Mm-hmm.
And like you're saying, and my dad's killed some big deer, and I'm not knocking that, but he's never been chasing a 200-incher.
sure.
But then there's a 40-acre plot across the street. I mean, I could hit a golf ball from my house to this property. And a 12-year-old kid about 10 years ago went out for his first hunt and killed like a 197 right there.
Damn.
First hunt ever. So that's what I'm saying. And
Right.
when he did that, I remember talking to a few buddies of ours out there, and then the other two 17-inch deer that was killed locally to us. When we're talking about that, these guys were just a couple day hunters, you know, and I know me and my buddies were just drinking, joking around one night saying, what we're going to do is open up a calendar to the month of November for the following year. We're going to throw 2 darts at it, and that's the 2 days we're going to hunt. And that's how you kill a giant.
Right.
It seems like it works for some people.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, on to the next question. Would you guys rather take one arrow hunting? And we're talking trap stuff here. One arrow, only one. Or forget your boots during a 10-degree day. So I myself, I wear like Crocs, like some little, I don't know, it's got some fleece on the inside. It's like a fleece-lined Croc kind of little weird thing that I wear there, slip-on things
Those
to
are
the stand.
nice.
So you'd have to be wearing that or whatever you're wearing. So would you guys rather take one arrow hunting or wear whatever you're wearing hunting during a 10-degree day, but forget the boots?
I'm taking the one arrow.
You're not going to forget your
Cody's
boots,
Cody's a big sissy when it comes to cold weather.
My feet get cold, dude. Throws my shot off a little bit.
Oh yeah, because you're shaking.
take
Andrew,
that
what
one
about
arrow.
you?
Oh, when your feet get cold, man, it sucks. I'll probably take one arrow to the timber.
I mean, how many times do you shoot twice out of big buck?
I've done it.
Yeah,
But
it's
Really?
Very well. See, with a recurve,
You
though,
say
can
that,
get more
but
a lot
shots.
quieter
Sure
though
as
too.
shit.
Yeah.
With a recurve, it's more quiet.
Nobody
So
wants to tell those stories.
yeah, it's more quiet. So if you miss, you more likely will have if you miss a deer with a traditional equipment, they're quieter. So you're most likely gonna have a higher chance of getting
Another
another
shot.
shot.
Get
off.
another shot, yeah.
So
That's a good point.
But if you're cold, it depends how tough you are, I guess. I mean, him over here did that this year, and he lasted all afternoon. But I felt bad for him. He was shivering pretty bad. He was cold.
Miles, what about you? The one arrow or the boots?
I think I'm gonna go with the one arrow, man. When that's one thing for me. My feet get cold at that point. I'm done. I can't go in my hands. I can warm those up, stick in my pockets. The feet, no, it's a no-go. When they get cold, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. When they're really cold, stinging, we've all been there.
Yeah. You're like, hey, man, should I go
Yeah.
in? Or am I going to get frostbite or not? Or
I think
what's
I'm
going
gonna.
on
Is
here?
that mature deer gonna come through, or should I just go to my truck? I don't think I can take it anymore.
Brett, what
I'm
about
taking
you?
the arrows. I'll leave the boots at home.
So you're going to go Nike flip-flops to the
Sure.
stand.
I went that day. Andrew's talking about we had to cross this little creek and go up this hill, and I was wearing just my work boots, 6-inch ankle-high boots, and it looked like it was pretty rocky in the one spot, like I could go through it pretty fast, and I think the mud took me up to about my knees, and it was cold.
Whoa.
We got to the other side, and Andrew goes, well, God damn it. He says, what are we going to do now? I said, we're going to go up this hill and go deer hunting. I'm already here. And another reason I say that is that doe, one of the does I killed with the recurve is a big mature doe, so you can't say that. It wasn't a stupid little doe.
Mm-hmm.
But I shot right under it once. I can't believe I'm telling you this story. I shot
That's
under
all right.
it.
Let it rip.
I shot under it once, and it walked about 5 yards, and it was looking around, and okay, that happened. Calmed down, pulled back again, shot right underneath it a second time, and it walked another 5 steps. And like he was saying with that traditional equipment, it is quiet. They have no idea what's going on when you're slinging arrows at
That's
them.
definitely a big benefit.
I know. And then I pulled back the third time, took a deep breath, and waxed it. Went about 30 yards.
Okay. The last one that I have here on my list is would you rather shoot a half rack 160? That's it's a big one, But he broke his antlers off yesterday, so you got to sell cam hypothetically. He's a 160 as a 10, like that's a big deer.
Pretty
But
good
he
chance of
broke
finding
him
the
off
shed.
yesterday. Or would you rather shoot a 130 to 134 buck
How-
with your traditional equipment.
How old are these deer, may I ask?
Let's say that the 160 is certainly 4+. Let's say that the 130 is 3+. You don't know either.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's a good point.
It's a tough question.
If that 130 is he's a young deer, we're gonna let him go.
These deer are standing side by side. You got a 130 and a 160 half rack broke off.
Mm-hmm.
Where's he broke
Yesterday.
off? Where's he broke off at?
He's broke right at the
Just
after
missing
the
a brow tine, or just
Yeah, he's
or missing
right,
the whole
right off
thing?
the brow tine. Though. Like his entire main beam, he's a half rack.
I'm gonna go with the 160.
Hope to pick up the other side.
I'll find it.
Yeah.
I'll make damn sure I find that other side.
Scour the timber, see if you can find it. Brett, what
Yeah.
about you?
I don't know. I've had that, not side by side, but I've had a nice giant half rack in front of me at 5 yards, and I let him go. And hard telling if I ever seen that exact buck again or not. But
Sure.
Tough question.
that is, I think if you're gonna shoot your compound, or if it were not you, but if it was me shooting a compound, I think I would shoot the half rack. But if I'm shooting my traditional equipment, I don't see nothing wrong with that 130, 140.
Sure.
And I know
Miles?
you talk about lowering your standards, but that's nice deer for recurve.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, it's funny you bring that up. Actually, this year I was hunting a 155, 160 inch 10-pointer me and Cody filmed him one day, and I went out I actually hunted with Brett the night before. And I was on him all week, and he was showing up about every other day in this field, and I grunted at him. There's a huge cottonwood tree in front of me. I'm self-filming. He came in. He's all the way out in that field. I grunted him in. He came into 15 yards. It was getting low light conditions,
Yeah.
And I was getting ready to draw back on him, just dialed in my recurve. And he picks his head up, broke his whole left side off in 2 days. Broke it all the way off. But, yeah, and I was pretty devastated about that. But I let him go. I didn't shoot him. And I would never be afraid to shoot a 140-inch deer with my recurve. I'd do it all day long.
Sure.
About if he's 2 years old.
I'd probably do it, honestly, at this point. I've never killed a buck with my recurve. I'd probably shoot a 2-year-old 140-inch deer. I don't know. My first buck with a recurve, I think I'd probably shoot a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not
Good
too
answer.
proud
Good
to do
answer.
that.
What would you do?
I wouldn't be having a trad behind my hand, so I don't know. For the sake of the argument, though, I'd probably go with the 130 to 134.
That's what I would go with.
135,
I think so,
for sure.
too.
Why?
That's what I would go with.
Why?
It's just
Well,
it's a new challenge, like you guys have been saying. It's like it's your first buck with thing X, and
Right.
that's what it is attractive to me. It's like, man, this is totally new. This is something that is far from what I've been doing for the last, decade and a half or so. I'm gonna go for this. And you got to set a benchmark, and I feel like you got to have realistic expectations. In Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, just the kind of Midwest here, upper Midwest, Wisconsin, and areas like that. I feel like a 130, 134, that's a nice deer.
Good deer.
Like, that's a nice deer for sure.
are we
Maybe
talking?
he's 2,
Are we
maybe he's
talking
3,
8-pointer,
maybe he's 4.
10-pointer, or what?
That's a good question as well. Like
Yeah.
there's,
That's what I'm saying. There's
know what
so
I mean?
much to that question.
6-point, 130 inches.
it's a lack of information that makes it tough.
Is
Yeah.
it
You don't have a
6-pointer?
picture of both of these deer.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'd probably go with that, unless I had an immense amount of history with the half side, and then I would thump the half side and be like, "Hey, yo, taxidermist, let's form
Link
it
it
up.
up.
There's some trail camera pictures of him here.
Form 'em up,
Here he
yeah.
is." So, AJ, what did you do?
I'd probably do the 130-inch deer because, like I said, is it an 8-pointer? Is it a 6-pointer? Is it a 4-pointer? Is it a 10-pointer? 12-pointer?
A 130-inch 6. That's a big ass.
giant-
six.
You know what I'm saying? So
It's the size of a
I would
bear
shoot
cow.
it.
That's a
I would
huge
shoot it.
6.
Okay, theoretically, let's say if it comes in, it's a big 6 or 8-pointer, 130 inches, compared to a 160-inch half rack. I'm taking that 6-pointer because those are just cool to me. I like cool deer.
Everybody's got a big 8. Everybody's got a big 10.
Nope.
Some people have a big 12, but nobody out there got a big 6.
I know a few.
Very
Not
rare.
many, not many.
Very, very rare.
I just showed Cody the other day a rack out in my dad's garage. It's about a 24-inch wide 4-pointer.
Jesus.
Big deer.
What?
Oh,
What's that
yeah.
even look like? Just main beams and
there's-
brow, or
there's-
main beams
there's
and
no-
two with no brow?
No, there's no brow tines at all, and it comes straight out, both sides, about 20, probably 23, 24 inches, and just two forks on the side.
Like a little crab claw. at the
Oh
end?
yeah.
What the hell?
No,
happened to
they're
that
two
deer?
full points on both sides.
Big deer,
It's-
actually. As far as big frame, it's like with a 2.
Oh yeah, it would wrap right around the sombrero and just fork out at both sides.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy. You have to send me a picture. Of
Yeah, I'll get you a picture of that one.
All right. Well, that kind of takes us out, rounds us out to the end. So, thank you guys again for listening to this. Really enjoyed the conversation that we had today with the Coppers Creek Bowhunters. And if you guys want to, and you should, because I feel like traditional bow hunting is kind of the next step in some fields of outdoor entertainment that are going to really be making some waves. Cody, one more time for everybody, where can everybody find you at?
Instagram and Facebook, just Coppers Creek Bowhunters, and then our content will further be on the Push Archery on YouTube. So
The Push Archery on YouTube. So they've got a lot of really cool videos coming down the pipe, and you guys should check them out. Definitely, just because they're doing something new, something interesting, and at the end of the day, you should be able to, in good conscience, look at somebody else in the outdoors and just be like, man, that's awesome. What you're trying to do, that's really cool, and that's the way I feel about it. So just kind of getting on to some more announcements here at the end. The Whitetail Legacy video podcast, you can check that out every Monday on our YouTube channel. Everything from their Legends of the Woods series all the way to their tips and tactics with experts, stuff like that. Thursday and Tuesday this week, we're dropping 2 episodes of Shed Kings on our YouTube channel. So on Tuesday at 7 p.m. and on Thursday at 7 p.m., we're dropping 2 episodes of Shed Kings. On Tuesday, we are talking about Cody's match set off of the 195 that he killed about 3 years ago called Mr. Freeze. Legendary deer, legendary whitetail. And the following day, on Thursday this week, we're talking to Austin Meyer, who matched up a really close to 180 match set on a new farm that he actually just bought. So huge shout out to him. One of my really close friends. Big congratulations. That's a dream of everybody to be, somebody that owns ground one day. So big shout out to him. That's going to be an awesome episode as well. So again, Tuesday and Thursday, Shed Kings on our YouTube channel at 7 p.m. And then our discount codes. If you'd like any of those, we have one for 30% off on Badlands. And Garrett and I have been pushing the envelope on this one, but we got a 40% off discount code for anything Pradco Industries. So Pradco is an umbrella company that comprised of Moultrie, Nightingale, Summit, Code Blue, and Whitetail Institute. So you can get Food Plus Eat deer stands, deer urine, trail cameras, and turkey vests, all for 40% off. If you would be interested in using that code, that's in the Last Breath Inner Circle as well, which is our Facebook group. Again, thank you for listening to the Last Breath Huntcast. Fellas, anything you'd like to send off before we go to the local watering hole here tonight?
No, if you ever get tired of just shooting what you're shooting, I'd suggest picking up a traditional archery and at least giving it a try. You might like it.
That's like I said, even if you're just buying it to shoot some foam, I mean, you're just buying it to shoot targets. It's just a fun thing to do.
Right.
Yeah, just give it a shot and get out there and have fun. That's what it's about in the long run.
I would agree with that. AJ?
Yep, just get up, grab the bow, go shoot it, put arrows through the bow, and just have fun with, like Miles said. Like everybody here said, just go have fun with it and don't be scared. Just go out there and just have fun.
Try something new. Thanks
Yep.
for listening, everybody. See you next time. Don't waste it.